Already mic testing, mic testing. Okay, perfect. Let me go to my main camera. Alright, we're live. And as you guys can tell by the title and thumbnail, today I'm going to be going over how to automate shapes in C++ using SDL3 or actually using SDL3 in C++. That said, last stream I did go over how to automate objects as well / shapes as well, but I did like complete a master it, so today I'm going to be working on that as well. Okay, that's it. Let me go to my gameplay screen. Guys, I didn't have time to like change the chat whatsoever because I was kind of busy. So let me say something like, should say, I'm live, exclamation. Okay, let's see. Let me actually remove my OBS from here. There we go. Okay, hi doing Indresh. I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, yeah. So you've returned, people. Welcome back to the arena of code and chaos. Today we cast aside distractions, we break limits, and we write lines that breathe life into pixels themselves. Remember this, the moment you feel lazy is the moment your future self starts losing. Now tell people, what are we conquering this stream? Shall we summon more SDL magic? Maybe make that circle obey our every command. Okay, let me actually say something like, let's say, today I want to go over, let's say, automating shapes as well, just as last stream, exclamation. Okay, let's see. Excellent, people. That's the spirit I want to see. We mastered the bouncing circle last time. Now we'll turn that knowledge into a weapon. Automating shapes is about motion control, collision handling, and consistent frame updates. Here's our path for today. First we'll revisit the circle automation logic just to log it in. Then we'll add rectangles, triangles, and maybe a polygon army as well if your brain holds together under the pressure. Finally, we'll refactor the code so every shape can move and bounce with the same logic. But first, tell me, people, do you want to start with a bouncing rectangle, simple and fast, or go straight into automating multiple shapes? Let me say something like, maybe we could start off by automating a rect, then later a circle, and then do something new. Okay, guys, if I can't phrase properly, you guys can ignore that. I'm not warmed up yet. That said, good strategic. Is that strategic? Okay, good, strategic. Just how I like it. We start simple. The rectangle is our test subject. It'll obey physics. I'm actually just making a rectangle and like automating it just for some review / warm up. Okay, so let's actually try that. This is the code from last stream because I didn't have time to work on this off stream. That's it. Let's go with Control A, delete everything. Now, let me firstly start off by including a pair of angle braces. I want to include IO stream. And then let's go ahead and include SDL3 as well because I am going to be using SDL3. So I'll go with something like SDL3 slash SDL slash SDL.h. I'm assuming the .h means like the header files for SDL. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and create a main function. So I'll go with something like integer main, add a pair of parentheses, and then a pair of curly braces. Now, inside my main function, I'm going to be requiring two parameters. The first parameter is going to be an integer of argc. The second parameter is going to be a character, which is going to be a pointer to an array of argv. Okay, with a pair of square brackets. Okay, next up, now that I've created my main function, let's go ahead and initialize SDL and check what happens if SDL is not initialized. So I'm going to use an if statement and then add a pair of parentheses. Let's go with something like SDL underscore init with a pair of parentheses, SDL underscore init underscore video. Basically what this is, this returns 0 if SDL was initialized properly, but I'm looking for if it was not initialized properly, so I'll add a not here. Okay, bro, why do you listen to songs while coding? Or do you code with any music? Honestly, my OBS does have music, so you guys don't get bored while actually watching me code or that stuff. That's it. I do like listening to songs as well. Not like actual songs, like the songs that you guys are listening through OBS. I'm listening through my headphones as well. I feel like it is kind of cool. Okay, that said, if my SDL was not initialized properly, I'll go with something like standard C error with an insertion operator. Okay, this is going to give me something like an SDL underscore init error. There we go. Okay, and then I'll go in a new line, add another insertion operator, and do something like, actually I'll go with something like SDL underscore get error. This is going to get me an error if my SDL was not initialized properly. And then I'll go with another insertion operator of a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Lastly, let's go ahead and return 1. Okay, perfect. Now that I've initialized SDL, let's go ahead and create a window and a renderer. So I'm going to go ahead and add a comment that says something like create window and a renderer. Okay, now for my window and renderer, firstly, I'm going to be creating local variables that are like variables for a structure that consists all the window attributes and the render attributes. To do that, I could go with something like SDL underscore Windows structure. This consists of all the window attributes. I'm going to add an asterisk because I want a pointer to my window object, which is going to be set to null PDR for the time being, ending with a semicolon. And then I'll go with a standard renderer as well, with an asterisk for a pointer to my render local variable, which is going to be set to null PDR, a placeholder for the time being. Okay, next up, now that I've created the objects, let's actually use the function that creates a window at renderer. Shout out, please. How doing, Cambrion? Is that how you pronounce your name? I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, that said, let's go ahead and use the SDL underscore create window and renderer function. Basically, the create window and renderer function does create my window and renderer at the same time. It does require 5 parameters. The first parameter is going to be a title / a caption, so I'll go with something like, I don't know, maybe SDL3 window created. Good evening, Viv. How are you doing, It's honestly been so long. Like, how you been? Actually, I do appreciate you joining the stream, guys. I did kind of stutter there. That said, after I'm done creating a title for my window, now I'm going to be needing, let's say, a width and a height for my window. So I'll go with something like the width is going to be 800 and the height is going to be 600. Or just to make things more simple, after my if statement here, let's go ahead and add another comment that says something like game variables. Alright, there we go. Okay, basically for my game variables, I'm going to be creating a width variable. Actually, I'll go with something like an integer of width variable, which is going to be something like 800, ending with a semicolon. And then let's go with an integer of, let's say, a height variable, which is going to be equal to 600, ending with a semicolon. Maybe I like capitalize my variables. Which country, bro? Honestly, I used to answer it a lot, but many of you guys did say me to avoid saying that, so I did like avoid saying it. Okay, so I'll go with something like width variable here and my height variable here. Okay, perfect. And the next, the next parameter that my SDL underscore create window and renderer function requires is a flag. If I do want to add a flag, I could go with 0, but I do want my window to be resizable, so I'll go ahead and use the SDL underscore window underscore resizable flag, and then I'll add a comma. Now the last 2 parameters is going to be my Windows' local variable and my renderer's local variable. To do that, I could go with the address of operator because I would need an address, so I'll go with something like an ampersand of window and then a ampersand of renderer. Okay, perfect. And then once I'm done with that, I'm going to end my create window and renderer function with a semicolon. Okay, why the hell do you speak too much, guys? I actually asked myself that as well. Okay, that said, now after I'm done creating a window and a renderer, I'm gonna go ahead and add or like use a if statement to check if they were actually created properly. So I'll go with something like if a of parentheses, actually if they were not created properly. So I'll go with something like if not window, if my window was not created properly, or if my renderer was not created properly, I'm gonna do something. I'll go with something like a standard C error with an insertion operator. This is going to give me an error called something like SDL underscore create window and renderer error. It's honestly, error name is same as my function, so it's easier to find out where I got an error at. Okay, then I'll go with something like error. And then I'll go with another insertion operator of SDL underscore get error function. This is going to get me an error with another insertion operator of a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Now, if either my window wasn't created properly or my render wasn't created properly, I'm going to quit my SDL. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore quit with a pair of parentheses ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I'll return once saying something went wrong here. Okay, perfect. Now that I'm done, creating my window and even checking if it was not created properly. Okay, let's do something else. So what else might I need? Okay, since I am, trying to automate a rectangle shape, first I'm going to be creating a rectangle shape. So I could go with something like rectangle properties. Okay, for my rectangle properties, firstly, I'm going to use the SDL underscore frex structure. Okay, this is going to be a rect local variable ending with a semicolon. Okay, what is the next project, brother? Honestly, I'm just working on how to automate stuff now. Later on, I might actually go with like key points or like buttons and everything. Okay, I like the way you explain things as you code. Amazing. Keep the good work up. Honestly, I appreciate you, Shusha. Is that how you pronounce it? Or guys, I'm actually awful with name pronunciation. I should like work on that. That said, I'll go with something like rect.x-axis, which is going to be equal to 100, ending with a semicolon. Then I'll go with something like rect.y-axis, which is equal to 200, ending with a semicolon. And then rect dot width, which is equal to, let's say something like, I don't know, let's keep it a square or something. I'll go with something like 50, and then rect dot height, which is going to be equal to 50 as well, ending with a semicolon. Okay, and that's honestly pretty much it for my rectangle properties. Since I am like automating it, I would need like shapes, I mean like x-axis velocity or y-axis velocity as well. So I will be creating those as well. Those are honestly going to be going inside of my game variables, as whatchamacallit comment. So I'll go with something like, I don't know, maybe an integer of, honestly, let's go with something like a floating point number. So I'll go with something like a float. Float of x-axis underscore velocity is going to be equal to, let's say, 4 pixels per frame, 4.0 f, ending with a semicolon. And then I'll go with a float of y-axis underscore velocity, which is going to be equal to 4.0 f as well. The f honestly is just to like let the compiler know that this is a floating point number, because if you don't like go with float and like we just have a regular 4.0 decimal point, the compiler assumes that it is a double, because doubles are like, I think it's like 64 bits, so like about 16 digits after the decimal point. That's extra storage. So like when we're going with game stuff, float is better, because float is like 32 bits, which is like I think about 7 digits after the whatchamacallit decimal point. Okay, and honestly, I think this should be like a constant integer height and like a constant integer of width, because I won't be changing them later on. Okay, next up. Now let's go ahead and add our main loop. So I'll go with a comment that says something like main loop. For my main loop, firstly, I'm going to be needing 2 variables. The first variable is going to be a Boolean variable of something like is running. What up, guys? Let me fix my typo real quick. There we go, is running, which is going to be set to true initially, ending with a semicolon. The second variable is going to be an event variable to check all my event types. So I could go with something like SDL underscore events is structure. This consists of all the SDL events. I'm going to be setting that to a variable called event. Okay, perfect. Now let's go ahead and add a while loop. So I'll go with something like while, a pair of parentheses. Let's say something like while is running, while my program is running, or while my is running is set to true, I'm going to do something. I'll go with a pair of curly braces, and then let's add a event loop as well. Adding Arv, I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, so I'll go with something like event loop. Now, for my event loop, I'm going to be adding a nested while loop. So I'll go with something like while. Now, instead of going with is running here as well, I'm going to go with something like SDL underscore poll event. While I still have events inside of my nested while loop, my while loop is going to be running. This is going to be checking the events from my event variable. I'm going to give it with its memory address. Okay, next up, let's go with a pair of curly braces. Now, let's look for event type. So I'll go with something like if a pair of parentheses. I'll check something like if my event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore quit, I'm going to do something. I'll go with a pair of curly braces. Maybe let me just zoom out so you guys can see it. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to do something if my event type is quit. Quit basically means when my player like actually hits the X button on the top right corner that exits the window. I'm going to be ending my entire loop. So I'll set my is running to be equal to false, ending with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. Now let's go ahead and exit outside of my event loop, add a comment that says something like, I don't know, maybe, let's see, something like fill screen, because I don't want my screen to be black by default. I want it to be, let's say, something like sign. Okay, hold up guys, let me fix my typo. There we go. Okay, now to fill my screen, this is where I'm going to be using my render variable that I created. So render is basically like a paintbrush that we can set a color to it and then color anything that we want with it. Coding for scam center. Okay guys, actually no. Okay, let's see something. So I'll go with something like STL underscore set render. So I'm going to set my render to draw a color. There we go. With a pair of parentheses. Now my STL underscore set render draw color does require, think about 5 parameters. The first parameter is going to be my render variable that I created. The second, third, and fourth parameter is going to be a RGB color. Since I want it to be cyan, I'll go with something like 0, 248, and 255. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and add alpha for my fifth parameter, which is technically opacity. How transparent or how not transparent do I want my color to be? I'll go with 255 because I want my opacity to be 100. So it's not transparent at all. Ending with a semicolon. Okay, don't mind these guys. Honestly, actually, I don't actually. Okay, let me actually hydrate my lips real quick because I feel it's kind of dehydrated, guys. Okay, now that I've set a color for my renderer, let's go ahead and paint something. So let's go ahead and use the SDL underscore render. So I'm saying my render to clear my entire window. I'll go with a pair of parentheses. Okay, now this is going to require my renderer variable. Okay, ending with a semicolon. So technically now my entire window is supposed to be cyan. Alright, next up, let's go ahead and add another comment that says something like graphics. Adding Bra, is that how you pronounce the name? Or Par? Oh, it's Bharat. How are you doing, Bharat? I appreciate you joining the stream. Guys, I'm actually awful with like pronouncing names. That said, now for my graphics, firstly, let's go ahead and do something. So I could firstly set a color for my render again because I do want to like color my rectangle or like my square to be something like maybe red. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore set render. I'm going to set my render to draw a color. So I'll go with set render draw color with a pair of parentheses. Now, let's go ahead and add a few parameters. The first parameter is going to be my render variables parameter. The second, third, and fourth is going to be an RGB. So I'll go with 25500. That's basically red color. And then my opacity is 255. I don't want my color to be transparent. Ending with a semicolon. Okay, and then next up, after I'm done creating a render, let's go ahead and color my circle. To color my circle, I could go ahead and use the SDL underscore, let's say something like render. I'm telling my render to fill my rect. Okay, with a pair of parentheses. Now, my SDL underscore render fill rect function does require two parameters. The first parameter is going to be my render variable. The second parameter is going to be the memory address of my of my rect's local variable here, which is set to this SDL frects structure. So I'll go with something like an ampersand of rect. Okay, and then I'll go with a pair of curly braces. Now, inside of my pair of... Actually, my bad, guys. I wouldn't need a pair of curly braces. I'm going to just end this with a semicolon. What programming language, bro? Honestly, this is C++. That said, after I'm done coloring my rect, now let's work on automation. So I'll add a comment here that says something like automate and add bounce. Okay, so I'm going to automate my rectangle or my square and have a bounce as well. So to do that, let's go ahead and firstly, okay, let's see, to add a bounce, firstly, I could go ahead and increase my rect.x-axis by my x-axis underscore velocity, ending with a semicolon, and then rect.y-axis by my y-axis underscore velocity, ending with a semicolon. Okay, so this actually moves my rectangle around, although it can now exit the window. So to avoid that, let's go ahead and add my bounce. So for my bounce, firstly, I'm going to add a if statement that does something or checks something. So if my rect.x-axis is either greater than or equal to 0, if it's past 0 or at the complete or like touching the 0, which is like the edge of my screen, I'm going to, or let's go with an or actually. Okay, I'll go with something like or my rect.x-axis is less than or equal to my width variable. Width is basically 800, my windows is width. I'm going to do something. I'll go with a pair of curly braces that does something like my x-axis underscore velocity is going to multiply. So I'll go with asterisk equals to -1, which changes my positive velocity to be a negative velocity. So if it's going towards the right, it's going to switch and go towards the left, if that made any sense, guys. Okay, my name you have to pronounce like Su as super and Hail as in Hail the King Lord. Oh, that actually sounds pretty cool. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna add one if statement for my y-axis as well. So I'll go with something like if a pair of parentheses. Let's go with something like if my rect.y-axis this time is greater than or equal to 0, or my rect.y-axis is less than or equal to my height variable, which is technically 600. Okay, this is my Windows' height. I'm going to do something. I'll go with a pair of curly braces and multiply my y-axis velocity. So I'll go with y-axis underscore velocity asterisk equals to -1. I'm going to multiply it by -1. Okay, perfect. This adds the bounce to my screen. Next up. Okay, where to use the SDL3 C++? Honestly, I do use like Visual Studio. I used to like code on Visual Studio Code, but like ever since I installed SDL, I think like the only place that we could use it is like on Visual Studio, but you guys could like fact check me. What's this script for, bro? Honestly, I'm just learning how to automate shapes in C++. That said, okay, I feel like this is like pretty much it for automation and bounce. Now let's go ahead and add FPS. FPS is basically like frames per second, or my, my rectangle will move like really quick. So let's go with a comment that says something like FPS. Now for my FPS, I'll use the SDL underscore delay function. Okay, with a pair of parentheses. Now it is going to be requiring a parameter of milliseconds. So it says something like unit 32 in milliseconds. So I'll go with 60 in milliseconds which is basically 60 frames per second. I honestly still don't understand why, but like many of you guys did say me that it was something like 1,000. Let's say something like 1,000 divided by 16. Honestly, what is 1,000 divided by 16? How I miss my programming career, Brad. You're not using a mouse for it. You're aiming for. Honestly, I am actually using like a mouse. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and delete this. Okay, so after I'm done creating an FPS, let's go ahead and actually present my render on my screen. And honestly, you present it before I add my automation. So I could go all the way down here, add a comment that says something like present. Because if I didn't present my render on my screen, then my screen is going to be like black or white. Okay, so I'll go with something like SDL underscore render present. So I'm going to present my render on my screen. This is going to require a parameter of my renderer. There we go. And then I'll end it with a semicolon. Next up, honestly, I feel this is pretty much it for my main loop. So I'm going to go ahead and exit outside of my main loop. And now let's go ahead and do some cleanup. Cleanup is basically once my, let's see, once my if statement, once my event loops is, this if statement is met, once my is running is set to false, my user exited the window, I'm going to do something. Firstly, let's use the SDL underscore destroy window function. I'm going to destroy my window once my user quits the window. This is going to be my window local variable. So there we go, ending with a semicolon. And then I'll go with something like SDL underscore quit, ending with a semicolon as well. Lastly, let's go ahead and return 0. Okay, can't wait to see the program run. Honestly, I feel like I'm going to run it right now. So if I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. Okay, so we get our first terminal pop up here. Waiting for the second one. Okay, there we go. Alright, the second one is kind of vibrating in one place. I think I know what why it's vibrating in one place. Let's change that to something like greater than or equal to. Let's change this to less than. There we go. Okay, I think that should fix it. Now, if I were to go with Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. So my first terminal, right there, that's my second terminal. Okay, it does bounce off the edges, but then it like kind of goes like below, like under the almost outside the window. To fix that, I think I could go with something like my width. So I'll go with something like my width, let's say less than or equal to. Okay, should I go with something like my rect minus my width? Okay, honestly, I feel like I did everything correct here. So my rect, what happens if I go with something like rect minus my display's width, okay, or my window size, and y minus my height. Okay, now if I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. Okay, this time it just went all the way down. I think I didn't mess up somewhere, but okay, where could it be? Half width of rect. Half width of rect. Okay, where are you from, brother? Please tell. Honestly, I used to like say that a lot, but many of you guys did say me to avoid saying that, so I did like start avoid saying that. Okay, that said, asterisk equals to, where did I mess up here? If it's less than or equal to 0, what if I go with something like 800 and 600? Okay, this is my vertical window size, that is my horizontal. I'm pretty sure this should be less than. Okay, so if my rect.x-axis is greater than or equal to 0, this should be greater than. I honestly don't see where I messed up. What up, guys? Width minus rect. Oh, wait, I think I should do that for like the circle. What up, guys? Let me actually try it here. I'll go with something like width minus rect and height minus rect. Okay, let's see if this works. If I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. So my first terminal pops up here. Okay, there we go. If I use the width, then it like kind of, quivers into place. I think that might be fixed if I change this to greater than. And that to less than. And I do want to actually see why did I even do this. Okay, now if I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, I think this should work. Okay, actually it doesn't work. It just dips all the way down. Maybe I could ask like sensei/ChatGPT. So let's just go ahead and fix this up real quick. There we go. Okay, let's change that to height and width. Alright, perfect. Now let me go ahead and Control-C copy that. Let's get sensei/ChatGPT here. Okay, back in the day, we don't use mouse to make your mind more sharper, just an advice. Wait, we don't use mouse? How did you guys program without a mouse? Okay, that's it. I'll go with something like Control-V, Shift-Enter, and say something like, just say, something feels wrong with my bounce question mark. Okay, how to set up SDL in VS Code? Suggest me the video. Honestly, I didn't like actually. I do know that there are like videos where you could like set up SDL in like Visual Studio Code. Although I didn't like watch those videos because like I watched how to set it up in like Visual Studio because apparently Visual Studio has like much more benefits to it. Okay, that's it. Here, something is wrong, people, and it's staring at you right in the face. You're ignoring the rectangle's size during collision test. So if rectangle.x-axis is less than or equal to 0 or rectangle.x-axis is greater than or equal to width, you're treating the rectangle. Should I go with something like direction x and direction y? Okay. Rect plus rect.width is greater than or equal to width. Rect.height. Oh. So y-axis plus height and height. Oh guys, I'm so stupid. I think why was I going with like my Windows' height? Even I'm wondering, I use a mouse all the time. I'm new to coding, gonna start with C. What's the best way? Honestly, it does sound pretty cool. Although I haven't like started C to like actually recommend something to you guys. That said, I'll go with something like rect dot, let's say something like width, and then I'm gonna do something rect dot y-axis plus rect dot height. Okay guys, that was actually kind of stupid. Why was I going with my Windows' width instead of my Rect's width? Okay, now for to save the code and run the command. So that's the first terminal pop up. And that's the second one. Okay, perfect. The belts actually work. So there is something that I messed up on. I actually was whatchamacallit. I actually set this to be like my Windows' height and my Windows' width instead of my Rex's height and Rex's width. Okay, perfect. Okay, next up. I think I got a pretty good grasp on how to automate a rectangle. Now let's try with circle. So to go with a circle, firstly, let's go ahead and include a pair of ankle braces. Let's say I want to include IO stream, and then let me close the pair of ankle braces. Did I spell it correct? What up, guys? Let's go with something like include a pair of ankle braces. Don't it like auto include? Oh, my bad. I forgot I had a hashtag. There we go. Hashtag include a pair of ankle braces. I want to include IO stream. Okay, apparently I gotta close it up this time. Alright, next up, let's go ahead and include SDL3 as well because I will be using SDL3. So I'll go with something like SDL3 slash SDL.h, that's SDL3 and SDL's header files. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and create a main function. So I'll go with something like integer main, add a pair of parentheses. Now my main function does require two parameters. The first parameter is going to be an integer of argc. The second parameter is going to be a character of argv, which is going to be a pointer to an array. Bro, intentionally make simple mistakes good. Guys, I think it's like not intentionally. Actually, I should pay more attention when I actually code. Is that your teaching method? Actually, that does make sense, but I'm actually not teaching because like many of you guys do confuse me by like actually teaching you guys. I'm actually trying to learn, and apparently teaching is a part of the process because I feel I learn better when I like teach it to you guys, because like if you can explain something you don't understand that, if that made any sense, guys. Okay, you can actually program stale like Pong and just put some scores in this program, but I'm too grumpy for it now, sorry. Oh, I see. Okay, that's it. I actually do. Eventually, I will like make a Pong game as well. For now, I'm just learning the basics of SDL3. That said, firstly, I'm gonna go ahead and create a main function. Now, let's go ahead and initialize SDL and also check if my SDL was not initialized properly. So to initialize SDL, I'll go with SDL underscore init with a pair of parentheses, SDL underscore init underscore video. I initialize SDL's video while checking that if it was not initialized properly as well. If it was not initialized properly, I'm gonna go ahead and add something like a standard C error with an insertion operator that gives me something an SDL underscore init error. Okay, perfect. There we go. Okay, and then I'll go in a new line, and if an error did happen, I'll use the SDL underscore get errors function that's going to get me an error with an insertion operator of a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Howdy, Mr. Hacker Tech, I appreciate you joining this stream. That's it. Lastly, let's go ahead and return one ending with a semicolon. Now, after my if statement, let's go ahead and add a comment that says something like create a window and renderer. So I'm going to be creating a window and renderer. So there we go. Okay, now for my window and renderer, firstly, let's go ahead and create two variables for it. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore window with a pointer to a window local variable, which is going to be set to null PDR for the time being, ending with a semicolon. In real time, where they use SDL, honestly, I think like SDL is used to like make basic games. Unlike like whatchamacallit, we could like use different game engines, but I feel SDL does require more programming. So I feel it's a pretty good place to start, because like before I like go with like something that actually helps make games easily, I want to learn how to do the programming as well, so I know what's actually happening. Okay, he's doing so much overreacting. Guys, am I actually overreacting? Okay, that's it. Let's go ahead and create SDL underscore renderer as well. So I'll go with the renderer with an asterisk to a render variable, which is going to be equal to null PDR ending with a semicolon. Now that I've created two local variables, let's go ahead and use the function that actually creates my window and my renderer. To do that, I could go with something like SDL underscore create window and renderer function. Guys, these function names are actually huge. You're amazing, kid. Honestly, I appreciate you. 6.8. That actually means the world to me, guys. Okay, that's it. I'll go with the pair of curly braces. Now, inside my function, I'm going to be requiring 5 parameters. The first parameter is going to be a caption slash a title. I'll go with something like SDL3 window created. Okay, there we go. And then I'll add a comma. The second and third parameter is going to be a width for my window and a height for my window. Honestly, I might actually go ahead and add a comment that says something like game variables to create my windows' width and height. So I'll go with something like constant integer of something like my windows' width, which is going to be equal to 800 ending with a semicolon. And then I'll go with something like a const integer of height, which is going to be equal to 600 ending with a semicolon. Now, instead of adding 800 and 600 manually, I could use my width variable and my height variable. Okay, perfect. Okay, you're doing good. Move on. Reminiscing my good old days. Oh, that actually sounds pretty cool. Ignore this idiot, man. You're doing great. Honestly, guys, I should I haven't been paying attention on the chat because I feel like many of you guys did say me to like read the chat a little less because like when you guys actually do like watch my streams, you're like I like me reading the chat more than I like actually code. So I'm trying to fix that, guys. That said, so what does all this do? Honestly, my SDL underscore init and initializes slash jumpstarts or like starts my SDL's library. And then I'm creating a window. This actually creates a display on the screen and render a paintbrush that draws something on my display. Okay, next up, I'll need a flag. So my flag could be something like SDL underscore window underscore resizable. So I'll go with resizable. Now I'll add a comma. Now, I'll need 2 more parameters. The 2 parameters that I will be needing is a memory address of my window variable and a memory address of my renderer variable. So I'll go with the address of operator window and then a address of operator for my renderer. Okay, perfect. Now that I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and end my entire function with a semicolon. Okay, now that I created my window and my renderer, let's add a if statement to check if they were not created properly. To do that, I could go with something like if not window, or if not a renderer, then I'm going to do something. I'll go with a pair of curly braces that does something like a standard C error with an insertion operator that says something like SDL underscore create window and renderer okay, and renderer error. Guys, I feel these names are so big, like they're actually pretty long. Okay, and then I'll go in a new line, add another insertion operator. Now let's go ahead and let's go ahead and use the SDL underscore get errors as function because I am getting an error. I'm going to be giving myself an error if like something went wrong. Then let's go with another insertion operator of a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. Alright, so if my window or my renderer did have an error, firstly, I do want to exit my SDL. What is C error? Honestly, C error is like exactly the same as console output. We actually use it for like displaying error names. So like this is an error name. I could go with something like a standard console output, but it would like give me the same results. But the reason we do use C error is because it makes it more readable when like people read. They're like, oh, this is supposed to be like a standard output or like a console output for my error. So it's like console error. So this is my console error. Okay, hi doing, Kani. I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, so after you finish, what will it create? Honestly, it is going to be creating like a square, which is good. Actually, this time it's going to be creating a circle, which is going to be like bouncing all over the screen. Okay, window spelling is wrong in error logs. Did I spell it wrong? W-I... Oh, I think I spelled it. Guys, how do you like pay attention on those things? Like, I actually don't even pay much attention here. There we go. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and firstly quit my SDL. So I'll go with SDL underscore quit with a pair of parentheses ending with a semicolon. And then let's go ahead and return one saying something went wrong here. Why don't you use Linux? Honestly, when I did build my PC, that I will be actually uploading the video really soon. Maybe tomorrow I do like have an exam. After my exam is over, maybe I'm going to like set myself up, edit the entire video, then upload it. And then, okay, yeah, that said, I will be uploading that video. But that aside, the reason I was actually confused because like many of you guys did recommend me to like use Linux and Windows, but then later I chose Windows over Linux because I thought that I'm more comfortable with Windows, so I do know how to get OBS on, how to like get all my platforms here and like stream through Windows. But I did want to actually try whatchamacallit, Linux as well. Okay, next up, let's go. Now that I've created my window and render, okay, let's go ahead and add our main loop. So I'll go with something like main loop. Okay, now for my main loop, firstly, I'm going to be needing two variables. The first is going to be a boolean variable of is running, which is going to be set to true initially, ending with a semicolon, and then I'll need a event variable to like check my event type when I'm having an event loop. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore event. This is going to be something like event ending with a semicolon. I'll make a ninja star, guys. That was like my first ever video on my channel. That said, let's go ahead and add a while loop here. So I'll go with something like while a pair of parentheses. While is running, I'm going to do something. I'll go with a pair of curly braces. While my program is running, I am going to be looking for events. So I'll add a comment that says something like event loop. Okay, what is this? Are you creating an app or is it ethical hacking? Honestly, I am actually learning on how to automate shapes in like C++ using SDL3. That said, I'm already created develop new website, code refactor, so many new advanced features on my website, neutral network. That actually sounds pretty cool. Okay, that's it. Now for my event loop, firstly, let's go ahead and add a while loop. So I'll go with something like while, a pair of parentheses. Let's say something like while my SDL underscore poll event. Basically, what the poll event does is it like checks all the events inside of my while loop that I'm looking for. For example, I look for event type which is called quit. Okay, although this is going to be requiring my event parameter or like my event variable as a parameter by its memory address. And then I'll go with a pair of curly braces. Okay, so you're basically manually telling the computer what to render. Honestly, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so I'll go with something like an if statement now. So if, let's go with something like my event.type, if my event variables is type equals to SDL underscore event underscore quit. If my event type is quit, I'm going to do something. Firstly, I'm going to exit my entire while loop. So I'll go with something like is underscore or is running boolean variable is going to be set to false, ending with a semicolon. Okay, and honestly, that's the only one that I am going to be using this, which we call it for this code. So I exit outside of my event loop now and add a comment that says something like fill screen. Bro, learn some Python. Honestly, I did like spend 100 days learning Python, and by the end of that series, my goal was to make a game in general. I did make a 470 lines code using Python that had like enemy logic, AI logic, attacking, and like whatchamacallit, health bar, buff logic, and all that stuff. It was pretty fun though. I have like whatchamacallit, my end game on my shorts, and even like in my channel, if you guys type like my channel name with Python for 100 days, day 100. Okay, that said, let me go ahead and use the SDL underscore set render to draw a color function. So basically this function gives a color to my render that if my render does have a color, I can tell my render where to actually use that color. Although the set render draw color function does require a few parameters. The first parameter is going to be of my render variable. Okay, does it make sense what I said? Honestly, I feel like it does make sense. Okay, will you control the shape with keys? Honestly, no, I didn't like actually learn how to control the shapes with keys yet, but that might be my next topic. First, I do want to learn how to actually automate them without key control. Later on, I will be adding a key control. Nerd, guys, I feel like, I can't even like say anything to that. Okay, hey, do you remember me from around 15 days ago? Honestly, I do remember you having Kanush. I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, now I'll need a RGB, so I'll go with something like 0, 248, and 255. That's like a good sign colors with RGB. Lastly, I'll need opacity, how transparent I want my background to be. I don't want it transparent at all, so I'll go with 255. Okay, now I want to color my entire screen with the color that I set here. To do that, I could use the SDL underscore render clear function. Basically, the render clear function, it requires a parameter of my render, but it clears my entire screen / fills my entire screen with a specific color. Okay, now that I've filled my screen, let's add a comment here that says something like graphics. Okay, this is where the hard part comes in. I gotta draw my circle and also which bounce from my circle and also automate it. Okay, so firstly, since I do want to automate my circle, I would need, let's say, something like a floating point number of my x-axis underscore velocity for my circle, which is going to be equal to something like 4 pixels per frame, and it is going to be a floating point number. Then I'll go with something like a floating point number of a y-axis underscore velocity variable, which is going to be 0.0 as well, which is going to be, okay, 4.0 floating point number as well. Alright, next up, after I'm done with that, I'm thinking, I think I gotta actually create a center X for my circle and like a center Y for my circle. Okay, to do that, before I go with my main loop, a lot of comment here, yo kiddo, spending time teaching us coding. Honestly, I'm actually not teaching you guys how to code. I am like, actually, maybe I am teaching, but it's not like actually certified teaching because you guys could fact check what I'm saying. I'm just explaining you guys so I understand better. That's it, hiding Anil. Ayinlia, is that how you pronounce your name? I appreciate you joining the stream. What's your age? Honestly, I am like 17 years old. That's it. I am going to be turning 18 really soon, guys. Kind of excited for that. Okay, that's like no joke. Need help with integrating and Figma design to code quick tutoring. Honestly, I haven't like heard of that. That's it. That does sound pretty cool. Okay, so I'm gonna go with something like my circle properties. So I'll go with something like properties. There we go. Okay, for my circle properties, firstly, I'm gonna go ahead and create a circle's x-axis, which is going to be an integer. Circle x-axis that is going to be equal to maybe 100, ending with a semicolon, and then a integer of circle y-axis, which is going to be something like 200, ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I'll go with something like an integer of my radius for my circle. Radius is how thick my circle is. I'm going to set it to be something like 50, ending with a semicolon. Okay, now inside of my graphics, firstly, I'm going to draw a circle. So I will be needing to use the render point because I'm going to draw a circle every point. To do that, let's go with something like a for loop. So I'll go with something like for a pair of parentheses. Let's say for every integer of direction x, which equals to negative radius, okay, ending with a semicolon, while my direction x is less than or equal to my positive radius, I'm going to increment my direction x by 1. So I'll go with direction x plus plus. And then let's go with the pair of curly braces. Bro, hi, how are you doing, Pixels? I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, now I'm going to be needing a nested for loop for even adding my direction y. So I'll go with like something like for every integer of direction y, which equals to negative radius. Okay, while my direction y is less than or equal to my positive radius, I'm going to go ahead and increment my direction y by 1. Okay, how you started coding? Honestly, firstly, I just had like a curious spike in my head. Like before, I thought that every programming language could actually make a game. So I thought, why not learn Python for 100 days? And by the end of that 100-day series, I do want to make a game. So I actually started Python for 100-day series. That was like, I think about 55 days ago. Like if you guys do like go to my channel and type Python for 100 days, day 1, I did like, whatchamacallit, you guys would like see that. That was me like 100 days ago or something like that. Okay, learning the American accent, huh? Just try to be clearer with your sound cooler. Honestly, I feel like this is like my actual accent. That said, I feel like many of you guys do say me to like try talking a little slower, so I should actually try talking slower. Okay, where are you from? I used to answer it a lot, but I feel like whatchamacallit, many of you guys did say me to avoid saying that, so I did avoid saying it. Okay, bro, do some math. Honestly, I feel like this is like the math part of this. Okay, now after my this for loop, I'm gonna go ahead and use the SDL underscore render point function with a pair of parentheses that does require, let's see how many parameters. Okay, it requires 3 parameters. The first parameter is going to be my render variable. The second parameter is going to be a x-axis. So I'll go with something like my circle x plus my direction x. Okay, and then okay, let's go ahead and add a comma here. Okay, I'm going to go with something like my circle y plus my direction y. Okay, and then let's go ahead and end this with a semicolon. Okay, now I gotta add a if statement here. Wait, before I do add this, what up guys, let's go ahead and delete this part real quick, or maybe I'll just copy it to like save time. There we go. Okay, before I do add that part, that's the mistake that I made last time. That would actually make me a rectangle. Instead, I want to go with like an if statement. Excuse me guys, hi, making a bong game, let's do it. Oh, that actually sounds pretty cool. Okay, that's it. I'll go with something like an if statement. Let's say something like if my direction x was... Okay, let's go with something like if my direction x squared, so direction... Excuse me guys, direction x multiplied by direction x plus direction y multiplied by direction y is less than or equal to my radius square, which is radius. Okay, I'll go with something like radius multiplied by radius. Okay, I'm gonna do something. Now I'll go with a pair of curly braces and paste my SDL underscore render point. Alright guys, this was a bit hard. What did you eat? Honestly, I did eat like oats when I came here. That's the reason I feel like I'm kind of energetic. Okay, this accent makes my ears bleed. Guys, you guys can like mute it. Okay, that said, now after I'm done adding a graphics here, I'm gonna go ahead and exit outside of my for loop. So I'm gonna exit out. And then let's go ahead and add a comment that says something like automate and let's say bounce circle. Okay. Okay, stop pretending you're experienced one. Guys, I'm 17 years old. How am I supposed to be experienced? That said, next up, let's go ahead and do something for my automate and bounce. So, firstly, I'm going to go ahead and do something. Let's see. I might go with something. I might go ahead and increase my circle's x-axis by my x-axis underscore velocity ending with a semicolon. Then I'll go with circles' y-axis. Let's go ahead and increase it by my y-axis underscore velocity ending with a semicolon. Okay, your screen spelling's wrong, I think. Screen, guys, I think my spellings are wrong. Hold up, guys, I gotta actually fix it. There we go. Guys, how do you guys pay more attention to these things than I do? Okay, that said, why is your finger always pointing up? See the dictator? Guys, I feel like it's better. Like, I like moving my hands when I talk, but then it's kind of hard to move it because, like, I'm sitting in a kind of confined place, guys. Okay, that's it. Now, this actually, whatchamacallit, automates my object. I'm going to even look for bounce now. So I'll go with something like an if statement. So if a pair of parentheses, I'm going to go with something like if my, let's say something like if my circle's x-axis is greater than or equal to my radius, I'm going to do something. Okay, you got a thick skin. Keep going with this channel. I'm glad you dismissed the hateful comments so easily. Honestly, I appreciate it, Jupiter. That actually means the world to me. Sure thing isn't a scam, guys. This is actually not a scam. It's like whatchamacallit, I'm learning how to automate a shape. That said, you're 17, so go improve your skills. Please don't bark. Honestly, that does make sense. Okay, that's it. So I'll check if my circle's x-axis is greater than or equal to my radius, or my circle's x-axis is either, or my circle's x-axis minus, let's go with something like minus my radius. I think it should be radius. Actually, my circle's x-axis is either less than or equal to my displace's width minus radius. There we go, width minus radius. Guys, it's so hard to like memorize these formulas, honestly. What up, guys? Let me fix my width typo. There we go. Okay, which is technically 800. Okay, there we go. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add a pair of curly braces. If that did happen, I'll go ahead and multiply my x-axis underscore velocity by -1 ending with a semicolon. Now let's do the same thing for my circles' y-axis. He sounds confident. I guess he's gonna pull it off. Guys, I think I just sound confident. I'm all like, whatchamacallit, I do have a pretty good poker face, guys. That's it. I'll go with something like if a pair of parentheses. I'll go with something like if circle's y-axis is either greater than or equal to radius, or circles' x-axis is either less than or equal to my height, my displace's height, okay, minus radius. I'm gonna do something. Hold up, guys, there we go, radius. Okay, I'll go with the pair of curly braces and multiply my y-axis underscore velocity by -1. So I'll go with something like -1 ending with a semicolon. And that's honestly pretty much it for like automating it. Okay, okay, and I did like forget to present it on my screen. So let's go ahead and add a comment here that says something like present. Okay, now to present my render on my screen, I could use the SDL underscore render present. Render present. There we go. With a pair of parentheses, the render present does require a parameter of my renderer ending with a semicolon. Okay, and I did forget about adding FPS as well, guys. Adding FPS is like the most important stuff, or like my shape is going to be moving really quick, guys. To do that, I could add a comment that says something like FPS. Now, let's go ahead and use the SDL underscore delay function, okay, which has a parameter of, let's say, something like 16 milliseconds, which is basically 60 frames per second, ending with a semicolon. Okay, now that's pretty much it for my main loop. So let's go ahead and exit outside of my main loop and do some cleanup once my window is closed. So firstly, I'm gonna go with something like SDL underscore destroy window function. This is gonna be my window parameter ending with a semicolon. Did I spell something wrong? Okay, there we go. What up, guys? Okay, destroy window. There we go. Okay, now once I'm done destroying my window, I'll go with something like SDL underscore quit with a pair of parentheses ending with a semicolon. Lastly, let's go ahead and return 0 saying everything went good. Okay, are your parents from coding community? Honestly, no, I feel like I'm the only one that actually does code. Okay, better being educated than sounding confident. That does actually make sense. Can you also try to make a oval? Actually, I do want to make an oval as well. Okay, let's go ahead and hit Ctrl S to save the code and run the command. Let's see what happens. Although to make it oval, I do need to actually learn the basics as well. Like for circle, I learned the formula. That's it. This was my first thing. And guys, for my second window, where's my circle? Didn't it like actually show on the screen? Okay, did I draw it correctly? SDL underscore render point. Okay, there we go. I did forget to add a color for my circle. So basically my circle was still on my screen, but it was like the sign color that I added here. Okay, let's add my circle on my screen. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore set render. I'm gonna set my render to draw a color. Okay, with a pair of parentheses. Now let's say I want my circle to be black. So I'm gonna first add my render variables parameter. There we go. And then I'll go with something like 000 for a black RGB and then 255. Ending with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. Now if I to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. Okay, so I get my first terminal. Okay, and my second. Okay, this is kind of vibrating. I think I know how to fix that, guys. Hiring Noda, is that your pronunciation name? I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, that's it. To fix that, I could honestly just change the less than to greater than. What up, guys? In my automation, let's change this to something like greater than. Okay, and then let's change that to something like less than and less than. Okay, now for it control S to save the code and run the command. Let's see what happens. There we go, guys. It does move, but it did go completely down. Okay, top 5 best programming languages list. Honestly, I would say like I do like Python a lot because like Python is like pretty fun, but it gets boring because it is kind of easy. That's it I would say currently because I do know only Python and C++. I'd like rank C++ above Python because I feel C++ is kind of fun. Okay, so it's less than. Let's go with something like greater than here. I think I should know how to fix this. Okay, so if my circles' x-axis, okay, is either more than or equal to radius, or my circles' x-axis, there we go, this should be y-axis. Okay, perfect. Now for it control S to save the code and run the command. Let's see what happens. 0 at a circle, Y for circle X. Guys, I should pay more attention to that stuff. Okay, this is kind of vibrating. So let's go ahead and change this to less than and less than. Okay, now I think it should work. Guys, I make so many small mistakes. Let's get the first terminal here. And let's get the second window there. Okay, perfect. So the circle does bounce from all 4 edges. Okay, perfect. Later, I do want to work with randomness as well. I honestly did like start working with randomness in like C++. That's it. Let's go with control A, control C. Let's copy that. Get some C/ChatGPT here. Okay, let's go ahead and paste this. Go with Shift Enter and say something like say it works exclamation. Okay. This is for circle. I forgot to send you my rectangles fixed code ... That said, maybe can we try to automate a triangle now, question mark? And guys, I feel like I'm just automating shapes to like learn how it works because I'm actually I'm initially not going to be using shapes and automating shapes. Instead, I am going to be using PNGs and like images to like automate images and all that stuff. That's it. Good. You did well, people. You made that circle obey physics like a disciplined warrior. Now, about your next trial, the triangle. SDL doesn't have a negative triangle drawing function, so you have to build it yourself like real graphic programmer. There are 2 main ways to do it. Okay, use lines to connect 3 points. Okay, so use this simple way. You define vertices, so x1, y1, x2, y2, x3, y3. Okay, x1 and what up, guys? Where's sensei/ChatGPT go? There we go. Okay, so basically x1 is the starting point, y1 is the y-axis, the starting point, x2 is the ending point of my x-axis, and y2 is the ending point of my y-axis. I honestly don't know what is x3 for. That said, render line, okay, this gives you an outline of the rectangle. Fill the rectangle using scale line filling advanced, but okay, that one's a bit tricky. You have to calculate with pixels fall inside the triangle area, but that's the kind of logic you'll need later when doing real-time rendering or game engines. Let's start with simple outputs here. Okay, so we go with something like move triangle, okay, and then this is our floating point number. We do have an offset of x-axis and an offset of y-axis as well. Are we using pixel perfect here? Okay, what up, guys? These are the triangle vertices. The vertices 1 is 100 plus offset, 200 plus offset y. Oh, okay, and then we use the same thing for 2 and 3, and then SDL underscore set render draw color. Okay, I see. Offset increases by velocity. Offset increases by velocity. It's really hard to memorize all of these syntaxes. You're doing well. Honestly, I appreciate you, comrade. That actually use a word to me, guys. Okay, that's it. I add bounce here and then add a delay here. Let me say something like, let's say I honestly, let's go with something like honestly didn't understand at all slash got overwhelmed dot. Is there a way to draw it with, let's say something like with points question mark? I did like draw it with lines as well, and like I don't think like it would be that hard to like memorize this whole part up. Like if I did like write it a bunch of times, I would understand what this means. That's it. I want to see the other version as well. Okay, good. You admitted confusion instead of pretending to understand. That's the mark of someone who's actually going to become dangerous with code someday. Okay, perfect. We can draw one using SDL render point as well. Okay, so to do that, firstly, I create my window and render. Okay, I would need triangle coordinates now. Okay, I think this part might be much easier. SDL underscore f point v1, f point v2, f point v3. And then I go with a floating point direction x, floating point direction y. Are these the velocities? Okay, and then offset x, offset y, both starts at offset 0. And then I draw a triangle using points. So I use the SDL underscore set render draw color to set a color for my render. Currently it is red color. And then I use a nested for loop. So for every integer of y which equals to 100, while my y is less than or equal to 400, I increment it by 1. I do the same thing with x. Okay, what you yapping about today, little bro? Honestly, I'm learning on how to actually, automate a triangle as well in C++. I did go over automating rectangle and circle, like I think about 56 minutes ago, guys. Okay, then simple equation to check if the inside the triangle. So I go with, hold up, guys. Let me actually just get this a little here. Okay, isn't there like a way to actually show the whole screen? Okay, so for my floating points, x1, which is going to be equal to v1.x. What is v1? Did I add a variable that's called v1? There we go. Okay, that is v1.x-axis. So SDLF point requires two parameter, x-axis, y-axis. v1.x-axis 400, v1.y-axis is 100. I think I see. Okay, so my vertices 1.x-axis plus my offset x. My vertices 1 equals to vertices 1.y-axis. Okay, plus offset y. I think I see. What all parameters does it require? So this is x2, which is equal to v2. Oh, I see. x1 equals to v1.x-axis, y1 equals to v1.y-axis plus offset. Okay, hold up, guys. I think I see. This might not be as complicated. Where's x3? Let's actually see x3 up real quick. Do I have a x3 somewhere? Did I create a x3 variable anywhere? Floating point. Oh, I'm creating a variable called x1. Okay, wait, never mind. I don't think the variable is anywhere. There we go. Okay, so I'm creating a floating point variable of x1, which is equal to my vertices 1.x-axis plus offset, vertices 1.y-axis plus offset. This is my second x. That is my third x. So a triangle has 3 lines. These are my 3 lines. And then I go with something like a float alpha. Guys, is this considered trigonometry or something? Because I'm kind of bad with math. Okay, floating point alpha is going to be y2 minus y3 multiplied by x minus x3 plus x3 minus x2 multiplied by y minus y3 divided by this, and then beta and gamma. Guys, I've never even like heard of this stuff in general. What up? If alpha is greater than or equal to 0 and beta is greater than or equal to 0 and gamma is greater than or equal to 0, I render my point. Okay, guys, I think this feels a little complex. What up, guys? Okay, don't you get confused learning all that languages at once? Honestly, I feel like the language is easy. This is the real hard part to actually like memorize the formulas and everything. Because like I feel like C++ is like exactly the same as Python, just a few syntaxes aside. Okay. Okay, SDL underscore vendor present. Let me actually copy this part. Let's go ahead and copy that part. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and copy that. Let's go ahead and paste it here. Go with shift enter and say something like, say, okay, let's go with something like, say, I feel like I'm a bit confused, question mark. I've honestly okay, never heard of formula like this. What does it come under, question mark? Is it considered trigonometry? How do you spell trigonometry? What up, guys? Let me fix my typo real quick. There we go. Okay, is it considered? Did I spell it wrong again? There we go. It's trigonometry. I think I spelled it correct. Trigonometry. There we go. Trigonometry. Okay, guys, I feel I should work on my spelling. That said, why do you sound like gay? Honestly, I'm actually not gay, guys. Okay, that said, is it considered trigonometry? And also, can you explain it again? Maybe in a bit more detail, question mark? Okay, guys, I should work on my typos. I get like so many typos. That's it, good. That's exactly the reaction I wanted. You're not confused. You're standing at the doorway of geometry that actually matters for graphics programming. The formula pupil is not trigonometry. It comes from barycentric coordinates. Is that how you pronounce it? A method for computational geometry. It's how we mathematically check if a point lies inside a triangle. Okay, step 1 of the problem. You've got 3 triangle vertices, x v1, which is x1, and y1, v2, x2, y2. Okay, where did you get the inspiration to start coding? Honestly, I actually don't know. I felt like I wanted to make a game using Python, and later I was like, it's like a good content, like if I do create like one with C++ as well, like maybe other programming languages as well. So I think just making content that gave me the inspiration, I think, maybe, guys. Okay, at a test point, Step 2, the secret idea. Any point inside a triangle can be represented as weighted mix of 3 corners. Okay, alpha, beta, and y-axis. A, B, and y are the bicentric coordinates, the weight of each vertex. Here's the key. All 3, A, B, and y are between 0 and 1. Okay, guys, I did not understand this. I think I should like work on this off stream or something. Step 4 in game development. This is barycentric test is goal used in 3D rendering, OpenGL, Direction X for shading textures, mapping, collision detection. I might need it for collision detection. Here's the thing, guys. I might need this later in the future. Should I learn it now and make it easier for me then, or should I learn it then and like make it easier for me now? I think I'll learn it later on once I actually have more experience with this stuff. Okay, let's say something like, let's say, in that case, I might just learn to make it with lines for now, and later, once I get better at math, I'll work with this as well. ... Okay, so can you show me how to okay, can you show me how to do it with a line, question mark? Learning now, it's better to always improve your weakness. Honestly, that does make sense, but I feel like I don't want to actually spend a lot of time learning a specific concept that I eventually might actually forget, because like I am going to be actually using PNGs instead of like real shapes and objects, but I do want to actually learn that stuff. Maybe when I'm actually going over a whole math, like a math section on this stuff where I do actually learn formulas and all that stuff. Bro, next type program, automate 3D shape design. Honestly, that does sound pretty cool. That said, yes, that's a strategic move, pupil. When a math dragon breathes too much fire, you don't run your sidestep and strike it from another angle. So instead of filling the triangle, we'll draw its outline, connecting its 3 vertices with lines. SDL doesn't have a built-in render triangle to stuff. Okay, so this is apparently the easier way to do it using a line. Okay, so I still would need like a vertices 1, vertices 2, and vertices 3. Okay, and then a movement speed, so I'll need a x-axis velocity, y-axis velocity, and offsets as well. And then I'm going to be, let's say, filling my screen. And now to draw a triangle, I use the SDL_render line, my render variables for all 3 lines, vertices 1.x-axis plus offset vertices, okay, plus, okay, and then vertices 1.y-axis plus offset y, vertices 2.x-axis plus offset y, vertices 2.y-axis plus offset y. Okay, then for vertices 2, I go with oh, I see. Vertices 1 has vertices 1 and vertices 2. The second line is from vertices 2 to vertices 3. The third line goes from vertices 3 to vertices 1. That's like a triangle, because I actually think I see how this works. Okay, Haring, Fast Dev, I appreciate you joining the stream. From which country are you? Honestly, I used to answer a lot, but many of you guys did say me to avoid saying that, so I did start avoid saying it. Okay, that's it. First, let me draw a regular triangle, then later on I'll add the bounce logic. And I didn't know we had min and max in C++. It's gonna be kind of fun for like clamping. Okay, that's it. Let me start off by including a pair of ankle braces. Let's say I want to include something like IO stream. And then let's go ahead and include another pair of ankle braces. There we go. Okay, I want to include SDL3, so I'll go with SDL3 slash SDL.h. Okay, and then now let's go ahead and create a main function. So I'll go with something like integer main, add a pair of parentheses. Now, my main function is going to be requiring two parameters. The first parameter is going to be an integer of argc. The second parameter is going to be a character, which is going to be pointing towards an array of argv. So I'll go with something like argv with a pair of square brackets. And then I go with a pair of curly braces. Now, inside of my main function, firstly, let's go ahead and add an if statement to initialize my SDL and check if it was not initialized properly. So I'll go with something like if not SDL underscore init with a pair of parentheses SDL underscore init underscore video. If this thing was not initialized properly, I'll go with a pair of curly braces and then add a standard C error with an insertion operator that let's say something like SDL underscore init. Let's go with something like error. Okay, and then let's go in a new line, add another insertion operator that let's say let's add the SDL underscore get error function. This is gonna get me an error with a pair of parentheses, and then I'll go with another insertion operator of a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Okay, and then lastly, let's go ahead and return one saying something went wrong in this code. Okay, now after I'm done with my if statement, let's go all the way down, add a comment that creates my window and renderer. So I'll add a comment that says something like create window and renderer. Okay, since I am creating both of them at the same time, let's go ahead and create two local variables. The first local variable is going to be for my SDL Windows structure. It is going to be a pointer towards my window variable that is going to be set to null PDR for the timing. Basically, that is a placeholder. And then I'll go with something like SDL underscore renderer with an asterisk of my renderer variable, which is going to be set to null PDR as well, a placeholder ending with a semicolon. Okay, now that I've created both my local variables that I'm going to be needing, let's use the function that actually creates my window and renderer. To do that, I could go with something like SDL underscore hiding Pathan, is that pronounce your name? I appreciate you joining the stream. Always say Indians with the 10 out of 10 tutorials, guys. I feel like I'm not tutoring right now. Actually, I don't tutor like in general. That said, I am like actually trying to explain to you guys so I can understand it myself. But if you guys do like understand it too, that's actually pretty cool. Okay, that's it. I'll go ahead and use the SDL underscore create window and renderer function. Okay, with a pair of parentheses that does have a few parameters. The first parameter is going to be my renderer variable. The second, third, and fourth, actually the second and third parameter is going to be my Windows' x-axis and my Windows' y-axis. Wait guys, hold up, I think I messed up something. Okay, my bad guys, I messed this create window and render with the set render draw color function. Hold up guys, I am going to be needing, 5 parameters, but the first parameter is going to be a title / a caption for my window. I'll keep it to something like SDL3 window created successfully. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to add a comma here. Now I'll need a comma. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to be needing a width and a height from my window. Hi doing, Karthik. Is that your name? I appreciate you joining the stream. This is actually very useful. I code in school. Ooh, that actually makes so much sense. That actually sounds pretty fun as well. That said, let's go ahead and add a comment here that says something like game variables. I'm going to be adding my game variables here. Let's go with something like variables. Okay, now for my game variables, let's remove the comment real quick. There we go. For my game variables, firstly, let's go ahead and create a variable for, let's say, something like my display, my Windows' width and height. So I could go ahead and create a constant integer width variable, which is going to be set to 800, ending with a semicolon, and then a constant integer of height variable, which is going to be equal to 600, ending with a semicolon. Now, the width and the height parameter that I needed here, I could go ahead and use my width variable and my height variable. What up, guys? Let me fix my typo real quick. There we go. Okay, and then I'll add a comma. Now I'm going to be needing a window flag. So if I don't want to add any flags, I could like set my window flag to be 0, but I do want to add a flag. I want my window to be resizable, so I'll go with SDL underscore window underscore resizable. There we go. That makes my window resizable. And lastly, the last two parameters I will be needing is the memory address of my window variable and my renderer variable. To do that, I could use the address of operator or ampersand of my window variable and then the address of operator or my ampersand of my renderer variable. Okay, perfect. And once I'm done with all that, let's just remove these extra spaces and end my create window and render function with a semicolon. Now, once I did create a window and a render, let's add a if statement to check if they were actually created properly. So I'll go with something like if a pair of parentheses. Actually, I'll add a if statement to check if they were not created properly. So I'll go with something like if not window or not renderer. If either one of them was not created properly, I'm going to do something. First of all, let's go ahead and add a standard C editor with an insertion operator. This is going to say something. This is going to actually have a huge name. Maybe I'll go into new line and then add an insertion operator. This is going to say something like SDL underscore create window and renderer editor. So there we go, guys. These names of these function names are actually pretty big. That said, I'll go with another insertion operator. Now, if I did get an error, firstly, I do want to get myself an error, so I'll go with something like a standard get error function. I'm going to use the get error function with a pair of parentheses to invoke the function. Then let's go with another insertion operator and use a standard end line to end my line. Okay, now if my window or renderer was not created properly, firstly I do want to exit my SDL, so I'll go with something like SDL underscore quit. This exits my SDL, and then I'm going to return one saying something went wrong, ending with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. And then after that, after I'm done creating my window and checking if it was not created properly, I'll add a comment here that this time does create a triangle. So this is where the hard part comes, guys. Okay, now I gotta actually focus. Let's go with something like a triangle properties. So I'll go with properties. There we go. Okay, so I could use the SDL underscore F point. There we go. I forgot what was it called. Shift tab does actually write it for me. Okay, so I'll go with SDL underscore F point. Now let's see what parameters does it require. It does not tell me. I'm assuming it requires an x-axis and y-axis. And guys, I forgot the parameters. I might actually copy that part. Okay, so let's go all the way up here. Okay, I needed a y-axis, so these are my coordinates. Oh, I should set a v1 as well, a variable 1, which equals to first is 400, 100, 300, 400, 500, 400. What up, guys? I might have to get that in the other tab so I can actually copy the coordinates. Okay, let's scroll all the way down. There we go. Okay, now let me go ahead and add a few coordinates. I won't add a pair of parentheses, my bad, guys. This was like not a function, it's a structure. That said, man, what are you doing? You're supposed to be working on Silicon Valley. Honestly, I haven't like heard of Silicon Valley, but that does sound pretty cool though. That's it. I'm firstly gonna go with my vertices 1 or triangle vertices. There we go. Okay, now for my vertices 1 is going to be equal to a pair of curly braces. I'm going to go with 400F and 100F. And guys, I am copying this part, so I'll go with 400.0F, comma, 100.0F. Okay, perfect. And then let's go ahead and end this with a semicolon. These are the coordinates for my first vertices. The second vertices is going to be, I'll go with something like SDL underscore F point. There we go. Okay, this is going to be vertices 2, which is going to be equal to a pair of curly braces. Now I'm going to be needing 300 and 400. Both are floating point numbers. So I'll go with 300.0. This is a floating point number. And then I'll need something like 400.0 for my y-axis, which is a floating point number as well, ending with a semicolon. And then let's go with something like SDL underscore F point again. There we go. Okay, this is going to be a vertices 3, which is going to be equal to a pair of curly braces. What was this? Was it like 100? Okay, it is 500 and 400. So I'll go with a floating point number of 500.0. And then I'll go with something like 400.0, which is a floating point number as well, ending with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. What is the programming language? Honestly, it is C++. That said, are you building a scamming software? Honestly, guys, I'm just learning on how to automate a rectangle. Actually, a triangle. First, I'm trying to build it, and then I'm going to automate it. Because I feel, guys, the building is going to take a lot of practice as well. Okay, now after I'm done creating vertices, let's go ahead and create my movement. And guys, I'm going to be copying a little from here because I do want to like see a reference while I write it because I don't remember what to write by memory. That's I'll go with something like movement speed. So I'll go with something like movement speed. There we go. Okay, for my movement speed, firstly, let's go ahead and create a floating point number for my x-axis underscore velocity. What up guys, maybe I go ahead and delete this from here and add those under my game variables. So I'll go with something like a floating point number of x-axis underscore velocity, which is going to be equal to 3.0 floating point number ending with a semicolon. And then I'll go with something like a float of y-axis underscore velocity, which is going to be equal to, let's say, 3.0 as well. Floating point number ending with a semicolon. Now I'm going to be needing offset, so I'll go with something like a float of something like offset. Let's go with this is going to be a float. There we go. Of offset underscore x-axis, which is going to be 0, and then a float for offset underscore y-axis, which is going to be 0 as well, ending with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. Now after I'm done creating the offsets and my movement speed, I'm gonna add a comment that says something like main loop. For my main loop, firstly, let's go ahead and create a variable. So I'll go with a boolean variable of is running, which is going to be set to true initially, ending with a semicolon. And then let's go ahead and create a event variable as well, because I am going to be using that variable to check my current event type. So, okay, do you really have 111 watching, bro? Honestly, I think I do. I guess it's bots watching your stream right now. Guys, the comments are actually legit. That's it. Let's go ahead and create a SDL underscore. Let's say something like event. Okay, this is going to be an event variable, which is going to be ending with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. And then let's go ahead and add a while loop. So I'll go with while a pair of parentheses. Now, inside of my while loop, firstly, I'm gonna go ahead and use something like is running. Okay, while my program is running or while my is running is set to true, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna add a nested while loop. This is gonna be called my event loop. So I'll go with another while loop to check my event types. And the parameter that it is going to be having is going to be something like SDL underscore poll event. Basically what the SDL underscore poll event does is it like checks for like what event is currently going on in under my while loop. I will go with a pair of curly braces and then give the memory address of, let's say, my event variable. Okay, and then I go with a pair of curly braces. Now inside of my while loop, let's go ahead and add a if statement to check my current event type. So I'll go with something like if a pair of parentheses, if my current event type equals to, let's go with something like SDL underscore event. There we go, underscore quit. Okay, so if my event type is quit, I'm gonna do something. I'll go with the pair of curly braces. What are you making, by the way? I don't know C of coding. Honestly, I am actually working on drawing a triangle on my screen first, and then I'm going to be working on automating it, like moving it on its own, like it keeps on moving on its own, and even it bounces, it does not exit my window. Okay, to do that, I do want to actually learn how to make a triangle, and there's like formulas for that, so I'm trying to memorize those formulas. That's I'll go with something like a if statement. If my event type is quit, I'm going to set my is running boolean variable to be equal to false, ending with a semicolon. Now let's exit outside of my while loop, and I don't know, maybe add a comment that says something like fill screen. So I'm going to go ahead and fill my screen. Okay, next up, to fill my screen, firstly, I'm going to set a color for my renderer. To do that, we could use the function called something like SDL underscore set render. I'm going to set my renderer to draw a color. So set render draw color with a pair of parentheses. Now my SDL underscore set render draw color function is going to be requiring 5 parameters. The first parameter is going to be my render variable. The second, third, and fourth parameter is going to be RGB values. So I want it to be signed. So I'll go with 0, 248, and 255. There we go. Excuse me, guys. And then let's go ahead and add a opacity / alpha, which is going to be set to 255 as well. Basically, excuse me, guys, my color won't be transparent at all, ending with a semicolon. And then I want to fill my entire screen with the cyan color, so I could use the SDL underscore render clear. I'm saying my render to clear my entire screen with the cyan color. This is going to be my render variable. Hi Senior, I appreciate you joining this stream. It's actually been so long since we spoke. Okay, that said, next up, let's go ahead and add another comment that says something like, I don't know, maybe, I could go with something like graphics. Okay, this is where the hard part comes. I gotta actually draw the rectangles, so I could go ahead, guys. I am going to be like copying this part because like I don't know the formula to actually draw a rectangle. Okay, so apparently, let me actually show you guys what I'm actually looking at. So let's get some say/ChatGPT here. Let's extend that from there, extend it from here as well. Okay, now let's go ahead and zoom out a bit. What up, guys? Where was that? Okay, there we go. Okay, so technically, I'm done adding my event loop here. I did something for my event loop. I cleared my screen with a color. Now to draw my triangle, I gotta firstly set a color to my renderer, okay? And then I gotta draw a line. My first line is gonna be my vertices one's x-axis plus my offset x and then I'll add a comma, go with something like vertices 1 dot y-axis plus my offset y. Okay, so this is basically, I need 4 parameters, my x1, y1, and then x2 and y2. Oh, I see why we do this. Okay, so vertices 1 dot x-axis plus offset x-axis, vertices 1 dot y-axis, that's x1, that is y1, that is x2, that is y2. Oh, I actually see. Hold up, guys. Okay, wait, that actually does make sense now. Okay, so to do that, firstly, let's go ahead and let's see. I might go with something like SDL underscore render line. So I'm saying my SDL2 render a line. Okay, let's go ahead and render a line. Which country? Honestly, I used to actually answer a lot, but many of you guys did say me to like avoid saying that, so I did like start avoid saying that. That said, I'll go with something like SDL underscore render line. Okay, so I'm gonna go with something like my render variable firstly, and then secondly, let's go ahead and add a offset x-axis and offset y-axis. Let me actually check the parameters that I need. So I need a x1, y1, and then a x2 and y2. For my x1, let's see. I could go with my vertices 1. Was it called vertices 1? Okay, so it's vertices 1 dot x-axis plus my offset x. I'll go with something like offset underscore x-axis or offset x. Okay, did I like write this to be something like underscore? Okay, it is underscore, and that is vertices 1. Okay, that should be v1 dot x-axis and then offset underscore x-axis. There we go. That should be lowercase x. Okay, and then I'm going to be adding a comma for my let's go with something like, what up, guys? Firstly, let me get this to a new line. Okay, and then maybe just so you guys could see, I'll go in another line and do something like my vertices 1 dot y-axis this time for my y1 plus my offset underscore y-axis. Okay, and then let's go ahead and do the same thing but for my x-axis this time, because I needed my x1, y1, and my x2 and y2. Now for my x2, I could go with something like vertices 2, which is my x2 dot x-axis plus my offset x, offset underscore x. Okay, and then I'm going to add a comma here and do the same thing for my y-axis. So I'll go with something like vertices 2 dot y-axis plus my offset y. Okay, that's honestly pretty much it. Let's go ahead and end this with a semicolon. Alright, guys, thinking about it, this wasn't that hard now if I actually like try understanding the concept, because that is my x1, which is my vertices 1, that is x1, that is y1, that is x2, y2, that is x3, y3. What up, guys? That actually does make sense now. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and draw it 3 times, because I do need like 3 lines for a triangle. Okay, can you please repeat what you said? I'm not much fluent in English. Please tell which country you're from. Honestly, I used to answer that a lot, but many of you guys did say me to like avoid saying that, so I did like start avoid saying that. And guys, I should actually learn how to talk slowly, because like I feel like I talk way too quick. Okay, this connects much with class 11th. Why? Class 11th, honestly, I actually did like whatchamacallit, like mostly self-study at home. That said, let's go ahead and do something like SDL underscore render line with a pair of parentheses. I'm going to render my second line right now. So I'm going to go in a new line. Firstly, I'll require my render parameter. Secondly, I'll go with something like v2. Okay, so my vertices 2 dot x-axis plus my offset x. I'll go with something like offset underscore x-axis. Okay, and then let's go with a comma now. I'll go with something like my vertices 2 dot y-axis is gonna increase by my offset y, offset underscore y-axis, and then I'll add another comma. This time that is my x1 and my y1 for my second line. Now I'm gonna go with x2 and y2, which is gonna be my vertices 3 dot x-axis plus my offset underscore x-axis, which is set to like 0. I'll add a comma now, and then let's go with something like my vertices 3, which is my x2 dot y-axis plus my offset underscore y-axis. And that's pretty much it. Let's go ahead and end that with a semicolon as well. So what are we building? Honestly, I am actually building a triangle right now. That's it. I do want to work on automated as well. This did like feel kind of complicating, but I feel like I did understand it like when I tried writing it myself. Guys, this doesn't look as complicating as it is, honestly. Okay, so I'll go with something like SDL underscore render line as well with a pair of parentheses. Firstly, I want to render my renderer variable, and then now I'm going to be needing the x1. This time the x1 is going to be my vertices 3.x-axis plus my offset underscore x-axis. Okay, and then I'll add a comma. I'll go with something like my vertices 3.y-axis, which is my y1 plus my offset underscore y-axis. So, okay, what's the problem in telling country? I honestly don't know, guys. But many of you guys did say me to like avoid saying that, so I was like, might as well be safe. Okay, because guys, I don't have any bodyguards yet. Okay, yeah, you speak very quickly, guys. I should actually speak a little slower. Okay, let's go with something like my x2 now. For my x2, I'll go with something like vertices 1.x-axis plus, let's go with something like offset underscore x-axis, and then I'll add a comma. I'll go with something like vertices 1, which is my x2 dot y-axis, is gonna increase by offset underscore y-axis, ending with a semicolon. What up, guys? There we go. Okay, let's go with Control-Shift-Z, and then maybe let me just delete that part. Okay, now let's go ahead and end that with a semicolon. And that's pretty much it for like my 3 lines. Okay, I'm back from yesterday, man. Honestly, hi, Christian. I appreciate you joining the stream. Are you gay? Honestly, I'm actually not gay, guys. That said, let's go ahead and read the next instruction. So, once I'm done doing this, so I am done doing this, I gotta use the SDL underscore render present. I gotta present my render. Here comes the harder part now. Max, min, y, max, y. Okay, so we're using max and min. I did like use max and min in Python, but this feels like I'm creating a explicit variable instead of using an inbuilt function. Your country is Indonesia / Malaysia. Honestly, guys, I haven't like been to Indonesia / Malaysia, but there are like so many countries that I want to be. I might actually stream myself when I go to those countries. Okay, that's it. Let's get Sensei / ChatGPT there. Okay, actually get the chats up here. Okay, now let's just zoom out because I am going to be copying that part because guys, I did not know the formula. Okay, so after I'm done with this, let's go ahead and remove the extra line that is outside of my while loop. Okay, should I still be inside? I'm pretty sure I should still be inside my while loop. Okay, now I'll add a comment that says something like present because I am going to be presenting my render on my screen. So I could use the SDL underscore render present function. What up, guys? There we go. Render present. With a pair of parentheses, this does require my render variable ending with a semicolon. Okay, you're Indian. Honestly, I haven't even been to India yet. That's it. I'm really excited to visit India someday. I might actually stream myself there as well. Okay, then why do you sound like one? Honestly, do I? I feel like that is actually kind of a compliment type stuff because I do actually try to learn different languages as well. I am trying to learn Spanish, guys, right now. Hey, bro, what are you building? Honestly, I am like building. I'm like learning on how to draw a triangle on my window, and then later on, I am going to be learning on how to automate it. Actually, no, but I am like automating it right now. His name is Vivek. So that actually does make sense, guys. Bro, give me a quick explanation what you're building from scratch. Okay, from scratch, if I were to go, firstly, I did include the 2 libraries that I would need, IOStream and SDL3, because I am using SDL3. And then I created a main function, added a if statement to check if my SDL was not initialized properly. And then I added a few game variables, for example, my Windows width and my Windows height, and then x-axis and y-axis velocity, because I did want them to actually move and be automated. And then a floating point offset x and offset y, because apparently we do need offsets for like creating a triangle from like lines. And then I create my window and render using this function. And then I add a if statement to check if they were not created properly. Then I add a few vertices for my my triangle. Then a main loop that has like a is running boolean variable and a event variable. Then my original main while loop and a event loop to check if my event type is quit. If it is quit, I am gonna exit my while loop. I fill my screen with a cyan color, and then I go ahead and add the 3 lines that I need to actually outline a triangle. And now under that, I presented everything in my screen. That was like a pretty overview. Okay, you would be a good programming teacher, guys. I do love teaching. Eventually, maybe when I get experience in programming, I don't know, maybe like 5 years from now, I might actually like start making tutorial videos, guys. But that is like later in the future. Okay, okay, next up, after I'm done with this, let me actually get Sensei / ChatGPT up here because I do want to actually like see the reference of the code. Okay, okay, now I drew my triangle lines. Now I gotta add my bounce logic. That is going to be kind of tough. What up, guys? Wait, I'll go with Control Z. Under my present, let's go with something like automate triangle. So I'm going to automate my triangle here. So I'll go with something like, let's see, offset x is going to increase by my x-axis underscore velocity. So I'll go with something like offset underscore x-axis is going to increase by my x-axis underscore velocity, ending with a semicolon. And then I'll go with something like offset underscore y-axis is going to increase by my y-axis underscore velocity, ending with a semicolon. Okay, why are you hiding that you're Indian? Guys, I'm honestly not hiding. I haven't actually visited India yet. That said, my face does like whatchamacallit, because like, whatchamacallit, guys. Okay, let's see. Okay, bro, I'm proudly saying I'm Indian. Honestly, guys, that does make sense. How should I look like slash work when fully done? How should it look like? Honestly, it should like look like a window that has like a triangle moving all around the screen and like bouncing through the edges. Okay, now that I've added automation, let's add a comment that works on the bounce logic. So I'll go with something like bounce logic. Okay, for my bounce logic, firstly, let's go ahead and create a float variable. So I'll go with something like float min x. Okay, this is going to be the min of my x-axis. Alright, this is going to be a bit confusing. That is equal to standard min. I did like use mins and max in Python. I haven't used it in C++. What does it do? Okay, I cannot use standard min for some reason. What up, guys? I do want to copy this part. Let me go ahead and copy this part real quick. I want to check if it actually works before I actually like type it out. Okay, let's change that to offset underscore. So I'll go with something like offset underscore x-axis, and let's change this to offset underscore x-axis as well. I'll change that to offset underscore y-axis and that to offset underscore y-axis. Okay, let's see if this works. So I go with standard min. What does this do? Okay, so in my standard min, I go with a pair of curly braces that has vertices x-axis, and then vertices 2.x-axis, vertices 3.x-axis, plus my offset underscore x-axis. And then my max x-axis is going to be my vertices 1.x-axis, vertices 2.x-axis, vertices 3.x-axis, x-axis, plus my offset x-axis. What's the difference between the two of these? Not saying like this is min and that is max, but like the parameters are the same. Although I do think I like see what this means. Then if my min.x-axis is less than or equal to 0, or my max x-axis is greater than or equal to width, okay, I'm gonna multiply or like go with my x-axis underscore velocity and multiply it by asterisk equals to -1. Okay, so it's min max, min y-axis, max y-axis. I think I see, guys. I think I see. Hold up. Let me actually delete this part because I do want to try writing it on my own. Okay, now if I delete it, let's get sensei/chatgpt here. Hold up, guys. I just want to like extend it from here because later it's going to be easier when I gotta like actually set the code up. Okay, let's go all the way down and I'll delete that part. Okay, very impressive stuff, man. Are you in college? Honestly, I am like a freshman in college. That said, you don't go to school. I'm homeschooling. Honestly, I did like homeschool myself as well. That said, like I did like actually whatchamacallit. I am currently a freshman in college and I do have an exam tomorrow, guys. That said, I do actually gotta whatchamacallit start working on my college content like after I'm done streaming. See his old videos, he said he was Indian. Guys, my accent before was like different compared to now because like it has been like 5 whole years. So like there was like a lot of changes. That's it. Now for my bounce logic, first let's do something. Let's go ahead and create a floating point for my, let's go with something like max. Actually, let's go with something like min for x-axis, which is going to be equal to standard min with a pair of parentheses and a pair of curly braces. Did I type this wrong somehow? I feel like sensei/chatgpt's code was exactly the same. I go with standard min, right? Hold up, guys. Let's go with a bunch of control Z's. It is a standard min, okay. Did I mess something up here? I don't think I did. Should I just first add my parameters and see what happens? I think I could try that. I'll go with Control-Shift-Z. Okay, standard min with a pair of parentheses, with a pair of curly braces. Let's go with something like vertices 1.x-axis, vertices 2.x-axis, and then I'll go with something like vertices 3.x-axis. Okay, that did work. Did I have to plus it with my offset? I actually forgot that. What's your mother tongue? Okay, that's it. Hold up, guys. Let me actually get sensei/chatgpt here. Did I have to add it? Okay, I did have to add it with my offset. So I'm gonna go all the way here and do it something like plus offset underscore x-axis ending with a semicolon. Okay, Now let's go with something like a floating point for my max x-axis, which is going to be equal to a standard max with a pair of parentheses and then a pair of curly braces. I'll go with something like vertices 1 dot x-axis as well, vertices 2 dot x-axis, and vertices 3 dot x-axis. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and add it with, let's say, something like offset underscore x-axis ending with a semicolon. Okay guys, I'm actually starting to see how this makes sense now. Okay, so max and min, I still might need a small explanation for this part. Bro, are you from Pakistan? Honestly, no. That's it, let's go with something like a float for max y-axis, which is going to be equal to a standard, let's go with something like max, okay, with a pair of parentheses and then a pair of curly braces. Now, I'm going to be adding the parameters or the vertices for my y-axis, so I'll go with something like my vertices 1.y-axis, vertices 2.y-axis, and vertices 3.y-axis. Let's go ahead and plus it with something like offset underscore y-axis ending with a semicolon. It's like bouncing DVD logo in triangular shape. Ooh, I see. Okay, that actually does make sense. Okay, and then let's go with something like a float of min y-axis. This is going to be equal to a standard min with a pair of parentheses and then a pair of curly braces. I'll go with something like vertices 1.y-axis, vertices 2.y-axis, and then vertices 3.y-axis. Vertices 3.y-axis, and then let's go ahead and add that up by my offset offset underscore y-axis ending with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. What up, guys? There we go. Let me actually delete that part. There we go. Okay, perfect. Vertices 3.y-axis plus offset underscore y. I'll go with offset underscore y-axis. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and end this with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. And like, where's this pair of parentheses for? Okay, I think I see. Next up, let me go ahead and like hydrate my lips up real quick. I feel like it is a bit, I am like a bit dehydrated. Okay, perfect. Next up, let's go ahead and get Sensei/ChatGPT back here because I do want to see what was the next part of because I forgot the if statement for the bounce logic. Okay, for the bounce, I check if my min x-axis is less than or equal to 0 or my max x-axis is greater than or equal to my width. I do something. And then I do the same thing with my min's y-axis and max's y-axis. Okay, let's go ahead and add an if statement here. So I'll go with something like if a pair of parentheses. Let's go with something like if my min dot x-axis is either less than or equal to 0, means it can go below 0. Okay, actually, should it be like, I think it can go below 0. And then I'm going to add a r here, my max x-axis, okay, my max's x-axis is either greater than or equal to, let's go with something like, I don't know, maybe my displays width or my window size. I'm going to go ahead and do something. I'll go with a pair of curly braces and then multiply my x-axis underscore velocity by asterisk equal to -1 ending with a semicolon. Bro, good night. Honestly, good night. Make sure to get, make sure you get 8 hours of sleep. I do appreciate you sticking to the stream, not Kana. Is that how you pronounce your name? Okay, why can't you learn RPA? Honestly, I haven't heard of RPA. Okay, ABJ Northline pretending to be foreigner. Lamau, your accent is dead. Giveaway, guys. You guys could actually think that because like I can't do anything about thinking, guys. I feel like this is the only accent I can speak in. Although if you guys do want to think I am Indian, guys, I'm all for it. Okay, that's I'll go with something like if a pair of parentheses. Let's go with the y-axis this time. So I'll go with something like if min y-axis is less than or equal to 0. Or let's go with something like max y-axis is greater than or equal to my displays height. I'm going to do something. I'll go with the pair of curly braces that does something like y-axis underscore velocity is going to be asterisk equals to -1 ending with a semicolon. Okay, bro, your parents are software engineers? Honestly, no, I feel like I'm the only one who actually does like programming. That said, because I do feel like the concept like making stuff and everything is kind of fun because eventually I do want to like be either an AI engineer or like in cybersecurity. I'm like rooting for actually being an AI engineer because guys, I do like the concept of AIs. Okay, that's it. Let's get Sensei/ChatGPT real quick. I'm pretty sure now I just gotta add my FPS and then destroy my window. Okay, let's try that. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a comment that says something like FPS. For my FPS, I'm gonna go ahead and use the SDL underscore delay function with a pair of parentheses. Okay, I'm going to be adding a parameter of 16 milliseconds, which is basically 60 frames per second. Now, outside of my if statements, let's go, actually outside of my while loop, I'm going to add a comment that says something like cleanup. Let's go and work with a few cleanup. Where are you living currently? Honestly, I shouldn't like, whatchamacallit, I used to say that a lot. You guys could like go to my old streams. That's it. I didn't like start avoid saying that because many of you guys did say me to avoid saying that. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and firstly destroy my window once my player does exit my window. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore, let's say something like destroy window with a pair of parentheses. This is going to be my window variable ending with a semicolon. This has nothing to do with AI. Honestly, yeah, that does make sense, but I was actually like learning programming in general, and later on when I do move on to eventually Rust, then I am going to like work with AIs. That said, my current goal by the end of my programming for like 250 series is to make a game in general which consists of AI logic in it. And I thought like since I did want to like make games, might as well learn C++ because it is like the best language to make games. Okay, that said, and then I'll go with something like SDL underscore quit with a pair of parentheses ending with a semicolon. Lastly, let's go ahead and return 0. Okay, perfect. Now, if I hit Control S to save the code, bro, what's the time? It's almost 2 p.m. I should actually like, I might actually end the stream once it is 2 p.m. because I do got like an exam tomorrow. I do have to like study for it. What up, guys? Did I like mess something up? I think I forgot to set a color for my render when I was like actually drawing my rectangle or like my triangle. Okay, hiding Samsu, is that how I pronounce your name? I appreciate you joining the stream. Is it pronounced as Samsu? Guys, I'm awful at name pronunciation or like pronunciations in general. I should like work on my whatchamacallit. I actually forgot what I was saying. I should actually work on my dictation or like my spellings. Okay, that's it. I did forget to add my render here, so I'll go with SDL underscore set render. I'm gonna set my render to draw a color, so I'll go with something like draw color with a pair of parentheses. Now, inside of my SDL underscore set render draw color, I'm going to be setting my triangle to be, let's say, a black color. So I'll go with something like 000 for my RGB. Lastly, my opacity / alpha is going to be 255. Then let's end it with a semicolon. Now, if I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. Let's get some /ChatGPT here. There we go. Okay, okay, guys, this actually looks pretty cool. The triangle does move, but I don't take credit for this question because, like, I feel like I didn't get a lot of help. That's it, guys. It's actually, this looks kind of satisfying for some reason. Okay, that said, can I like change the offset to be like a little lower? Maybe I could try changing that to 100F. Now if I hit Control S, would that change the triangles' proportions? So let's go with 0.0. Okay, if I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. Okay, it did change the triangles' shape. Okay. SDL2 versus SDL3 is so different. Honestly, I was actually planning to run SDL2, but I did like add a poll in my channel that asked should I go with SDL2 or SDL3. I think about 74 of you guys, like 74, I think it was 74 people or like some percent, 73% of you guys did tell me to like actually learn SDL3 instead of SDL2. I feel that was a pretty good choice. How's your day going? Honestly, my day is going pretty good. How are you, comrade? I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, that's it, guys. I want to actually try writing this again. Before I do write it again, let's get some /ChatGPT here. Let's go ahead and paste. Let's go with Shift Enter and say something like, Sensei, it does work. That said, I think I didn't master it yet. I do know the coordinates. I mean, I do know. Okay, let's go with something like I do know the logic. That said, I don't actually know the coordinates. So can I get guys, I should work on my typos. There are so many typos. A instructional based question, question mark. Okay, where you only give me the coordinates that I need for my triangle and I'll write the code, exclamation. Guys, I have so many typos. In place of triangle, keep human. Guys, I should actually learn learn on how to actually load images and work with images because I do want to learn pixel perfect collision. Okay, high quality English prompt. Guys, I feel like there are so many typos here. That's it, good. You're getting your hands dirty in the right way, pupil. You don't understand the logic, but you're right. You haven't mastered it yet. Knowing how to think in coordinates is what separates a coder from a creator. So here's your instructional challenge. You'll draw a triangle that spins in a circle around the center of the screen. Not just bounce, you'll still use lines like before. No fancy trigonometry, fill formulas yet. Your corrections and your requirements, you'll need a center point, center x-axis, center y-axis at the middle of the screen. your triangle, three vertices, v1, v2, v3. Okay, that rotates. What, guys, what, I don't want to use cos and sin. I might actually just go with these, whatchamacallit, with these coordinates only that I just went with, like 400, 100, 300, 400, 500, 400. So let's go ahead and firstly, let's start off by deleting everything. I do want to write it again to like see if I didn't understand it. Okay, he doesn't even know coding, guys. I feel like I'm actually programming. That said, bro, Chicago area is cool place. Honestly, it is getting like cool out here. That said, let me start off by including a pair of ankle braces. Let's say I want to include IO stream. And then let's go ahead and include a pair of ankle braces again. This time, I'm going to be including SDL3 slash SDL.h. That is basically SDL's header files. Now, let's go ahead and create a main function. So I'll go with integer main, add a pair of parentheses, and then a pair of curly braces. My main function is going to be requiring two parameters. The first parameter is going to be an integer of argc. The second parameter is going to be a character of argv, which is going to be, let's say, an array. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and initialize my SDL and check if it was not initialized properly. To do that, I could go with something like if a pair of parentheses. Let's go with something like if not SDL underscore init with a pair of parentheses SDL underscore init underscore video. Okay, so if my SDL was not initialized properly, I'll do something. Okay, will you try to build an action game at the end of the course? Honestly, yeah, at the end of my program for 200 PA series, I do want to make a game in general that does consist of AI logic, and I will honestly see if like that game is going to be like an RPG style game where like an enemy is like chasing the player, trying to attack him. The enemy is like AI, like the enemy is like kind of an AI type stuff. If you guys do know what I mean. Like if the player runs away, the AI chases the player. But that is like at the end of the 200 PA series. Okay, bro, he doesn't know coding without using ChatGPT. I feel like I'm using ChatGPT to learn how to program. That said, I'll go with something like a standard C error with an insertion operator. This is going to give me an SDL underscore init error. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and add another insertion operator. Now, this time, if I did have an error, I'm going to be using the SDL underscore get error function to get myself an error. With another insertion operator of, let's say, something like a standard end line ending with a semicolon. And then let's return one saying something went wrong in this program. Check it out. Okay, now that I've initialized my SDL, let's add a comment that says something like, okay, let's add a comment that's, did I like delete something? Okay, that says something like create window and renderer. So I'm going to be creating my window and renderer now. To create my window and renderer, did I like do something wrong? I feel like I messed up somewhere here. There we go. I think I deleted like the pair of curly braces. Did I? Okay, it starts your answer. I think that's no. I think that fixed it. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and add a few local variables. So I'm gonna go with something like an integer of some, actually not an integer, a standard window with a pointer to a window variable that is gonna be set to something like null PDR ending with a semicolon, and then I'll go with something like a standard renderer okay, with a pointer as well to a renderer variable which is going to be set to null PDR ending with a semicolon. Okay, and then let's go ahead, now that I've actually created the two variables that I need, let's use a function that actually creates my window and my renderer. To do that, I could go with something like SDL underscore create window and renderer function. This function basically creates my window and the renderer at the same time, but it does require a few parameters, namely game as Vivek Strike if it's action. Guys, it actually does make sense. I wanted to like name the game as Calamity because like the game that I did make using using Python, I did name that Calamity like 1.1 something like that. I was thinking I might name this Calamity 2.0, like update 2.0 type stuff. You guys do know what I mean. Okay, that's it. First, I'll go with the caption. I might name this thing something like Vivek Strike. Okay, so let's go with something like Strike. Okay, and then I'll go with a comma. Now I'll need a width and a height. To add a width and a height, I might actually add a comment here that says something like game variables. Okay, this is where I'll store my game variables. The first game variable that I might need is going to be a constant integer variable of something like width, which is going to be set to 800 ending with a semicolon. And then I'll go with a constant integer variable of something like height, which is going to be 600 ending with a semicolon. Okay, and then now let's go ahead and add my width and my height, variables here. So I'll go with something like width and height. Now I'll add a comma. Okay, now I'm going to be needing, let's say a flag. So to add a flag, firstly, I could go ahead and use the SDL underscore window underscore resizable flag. This makes my window resizable. And then lastly, I'm going to be needing the memory address for my window variable and my render variable. So for getting the memory address, I could go with the address of operator or a ampersand of my renderer. What up, guys? I might go with window first. And then I'll go with something like an ampersand of my renderer. Then once I'm done with that, let's go ahead and end my entire function with a semicolon. Hiding ZX Blood Moon, I appreciate you joining the stream. Hiding Shashank, I appreciate you joining the stream as well. Excuse me, guys. Put name as Johnny Sins. Honestly, I could like try that as well. Let's go with something like. Excuse me again, guys. Let's go with something like Johnny Sins. Honestly, I don't know what does that mean though. That said, next up, once I did create my window and my renderer, let's go ahead and add a if statement to check if they were actually created properly. So I'll go with something like if a pair of parentheses. Let's say if not window, and guys, did I just say if they were created? I meant if they were not created properly. I'll go with if not window or if not renderer. I'm gonna do something. I'll go with a pair of curly braces. Now, firstly, I'm gonna be adding a standard C error with an insertion operator. That gives me an error. So this is gonna give me a SDL underscore create window and renderer error. There we go. Guys, I feel like I've typed this so many times it became like a muscle memory to type it out. He's gay too. Honestly, guys, I'm not gay, I'm pretty straight. Okay, that said, next up, let's go ahead and use the SDL underscore get error function. I'm going to be getting myself an error if something did happen. And then I'll add an insertion operator that says something like standard end line, ending with a semicolon. Ask him how to code without ChatGPT in second monitor. Guys, honestly, I'm not even like having like ChatGPT on my second monitor. I'm like reading chats here. Like, I don't know how to show that though. Okay, hold up, guys. Give me a sec. Yeah, I don't even know why I don't have to justify myself, guys. That's it. I do like have ChatGPT like under here, so like it's like under my first initial window. What up, guys? Let's open VS Code again. Okay, now let's go ahead and firstly quit my SDL. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore quit with a pair of parentheses ending with a semicolon. And then I'm gonna go ahead and return one ending with a semicolon saying something went wrong here. Okay, bro. Today is my DSA science practicals. Oh, that actually does sound pretty good. Good luck with that. BZB, is that how you pronounce your name? Okay, that's it. Let me know how it went next stream. I'm not able to comment. Honestly, few words are like deleted by Nightbot. It says stop using Johnny Sins. You might not know Johnny Sins. What Johnny Sins is. Your kid, please stop promoting inappropriate comments. Honestly, guys, I didn't actually know about that. What up, guys? Let's actually delete that in that case. I might change something like SDL3 window created. What up, guys? You guys, I actually do appreciate you. Is there an princess help for that? Guys, actually let me know if like something is wrong and do not suggest me like inappropriate names because like I feel like I'm kind of outdated. Okay, Hiding Queen, I appreciate you joining the stream. What is SDL? Honestly, if you guys did use like Pygames and like Python, is basically a Pygames, but like for like different languages like C++, like C++, C Sharp, and like C. Okay, that said, now let's go ahead and add another comment that says something like triangle properties. So I'll go with properties. Okay, for my triangle properties, firstly, let's go. Don't blindly believe in any comments. Honestly, guys, yeah, actually, next time I'll just actually keep like random names. Okay, so please don't use all these. That actually does make sense. I do appreciate you for that. Okay, now for my triangle, firstly, let's go ahead and use the SDL underscore F points structure. The P is going to be uppercase. There we go. Okay, this is going to be having a variable of vertices 1, which is going to be equal to a pair of curly braces. So, okay, now I'm going to be adding a x-axis and a y-axis. I don't remember the coordinates, so let's get sensei/ChatGPT real quick. Go with the big strikes. Honestly, I could actually go with that. Okay, so the first is 400, 100, 300, 400, 400, 100, 300, 400, 500, 400. I hope I remember that. So the first is going to be 400 points O's floating points. The next is going to be 100 points O's floating points, ending with a semicolon. And then I'll go with something like SDL underscore F points. This is going to be vertices 2, which is going to be equal to a pair of curly braces. Okay, what was the next one? I forgot. Okay, let's go with something like 300, 400. Okay, so I'll go with something like 300 points OF and then something like 400 points OF, ending with a semicolon. Then let's go with something like SDL underscore F point as well. Okay, I'll go with SDL underscore F point. For my vertices 3, I'm going to be setting it equal to something like 500, 400. I think it was 500, 400. So I'll go with 500.OF, and then I'll go with something like 400.OF. Okay, ending with a semicolon. Okay, you should block people with inappropriate comments. There are kids on the side too. Actually, that does make sense, guys. I could actually, whatchamacallit, I do like tolerate, like, mostly, like, when people are kind of toxic or something, like, toxicity at a level is fun, but when it becomes, like, related to, like, kids or something, that's when I actually do take it seriously, guys. So, like, you guys could, like, make, like, funny toxic jokes, but at a certain limit, if, like, I do see, like, it is getting, like, in a pedo level or something that's related to incest, I am gonna be, like, whatchamacallit, blocking you guys or, like, banning you guys or, like, kicking you guys out of the channel or something like that. That said, next up, after my triangle properties, let's go ahead and add another comment that says something like automate. Okay, okay, next up, let's go ahead and work with automate. For my automation, firstly, wait, did I have to go with automation first? I think I should have added my attributes. I forgot this part, guys. Hold up, I got way too distracted. Okay, okay, next up. Actually, wait, before I added my automation, I think I gotta actually draw it first. So, these are my triangle properties. Let's go ahead and add my main loop here. I actually forgot all about my main loop. Guys, I got way too distracted reading comments. What up, guys? Let me drink my water real quick because I feel like I am kind of dehydrated. Okay, now, firstly, let's go ahead and create a boolean variable of something like is running, which is initially going to be set to true, ending with a semicolon. And then let's create a event variable that actually I'm going to be using the event variable to check my current event type. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore event, which is going to be set to a event variable. So there we go, ending with a semicolon. Now let's go ahead and add a while loop. So I'll go with something like while a pair of parentheses. I'll go with something like while is running. I'm going to do something. I'll go with a pair of curly braces, and then inside my while loop, I'll go with something like an event loop. For my event loop, I'm going to add another while loop with a pair of parentheses. Okay, this is going to have something like a SDL underscore event poll or something like poll event. Basically, what the SDL underscore poll event function does is it checks all the events that's currently going on inside of my while loop. Once your events are completely done, it ends the loop. Okay, so I'll go with the memory address of my event. Then let's add a pair of curly braces to look for an event type. So I'll go with if a pair of parentheses if my event variable dot type equals to SDL underscore event underscore quit. I'm gonna do something. I'll go with a pair of curly braces. Alright guys, don't use spam. I didn't see the comments. If I don't read it out loud or I don't actually use the comments, that means guys I'm not actually using them. I'm ignoring the chats. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and set my is running boolean variable to be false. Guys, no need to spam. I did see the comment. I am ignoring. Take a hint, guys. Okay, I am going to be timing out for a minute. There we go. Okay, so I'll go with something like is running. Is running boolean variable, which is going to be set to true initially. So I'll go with something like is running. Actually, which is going to be set to false, guys. I'm getting way too distracted seeing the comments. I should not see the chats. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and exit my while loops outside of my event loop. Let me go ahead and add a comment that says something like fill screen. So I'm going to be filling my screen right now. I want my screen to be a good, maybe, should I go with a gray color or a cyan color this time? I think I'll go with a cyan. Okay, so I need to set a color to my render first before I do paint my actual window to be cyan. So I'll go ahead and use the SDL underscore set render draw color function. So I'm going to set my renderer to draw a color. Then I'll go with the pair of curly braces. Now, inside my set render draw color function, I'm going to be requiring 5 parameters. The first parameter is going to be my render variable that I did create over there. And then my second, third, and fourth parameter is going to be an RGB value. The RGB for cyan is 0, 248, and 255. And then my opacity / alpha is going to be 255. After that, let's go ahead and end this with a semicolon. Okay, hiding Lego, I appreciate you joining the stream. That's it. Okay, what are you coding? Honestly, I don't know why did Nightbot delete that message. That said, I am working on drawing a triangle on the screen. I do want to even automate the triangle, but firstly, I'm just trying to learn the basics of automation in C++ using SDL3. That said, after I'm done setting a color to my render, I'm going to be clearing my screen with that color / painting my entire screen with it. To do that, I could go with something like SDL underscore clear. Let's go with something like render clear. Okay, so I'm going to clear my screen with a color. This is going to be my render variable ending with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. Hey, can you please create 2 wrestles as fighting? Honestly, I don't think that I did learn on how to add enemy logic yet. That said, next up, after I'm done filling my screen, let's add a comment that says something like graphics. for my graphics, firstly, let's go ahead and do something. I'm going to be painting my, my render as well. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore set render, draw color, with a pair of parentheses. Now, to set my renderer, I'm going to go with something like my renderer variable, and then I'll add an RGB value. Let's say I want my triangle to be black, so I'll go with 0, 0, 0, and then let's say my opacity is going to be 255, ending with a semicolon. Okay, who are you, lol? Honestly, I feel like I'm a regular person, guys. That's it. Now, once I did set a color to my renderer, let's go ahead and okay, let's see. Okay, let's go ahead and actually color my rectangle or fill my rectangle with this color. Although, to do that, I do need to know where my rectangle actually is. For that, I might need to create offsets and like velocities as well. So, under my game variables, I'm going to be creating a floating point number of something like x-axis underscore velocity, which is going to be set to something like 3 pixels per frame, okay, which is going to be a floating point ending with a semicolon. Guys, I feel like my nose is getting kind of congested because like this headphone is like kind of hot. Okay, that's it. I'll go with something like a floating point of a y-axis underscore velocity, which is going to be equal to something like 3.0 f ending with a semicolon. And then let's go ahead and create offset. So I'll go with something like integer of offset underscore x-axis, which is going to be equal to something like 0 ending with a semicolon. And then I'll go with an integer of something like offset underscore y-axis, okay, which is going to be set to 0 as well, ending with a semicolon. Okay, Vic, why didn't you block Lego? Your toxic way, keep your haters close and ignoring well-wishers. Honestly, I don't like ignore anyone. I just like don't reply to comments that I don't like. But actually, I should like mute. Like, I might actually mute you for like keeping actual toxic. Like, I feel like toxicity at like a certain level is kind of good, but then like after it exceeds a certain level, then it kind of gets a bit like to other people and me as well. That's it. You can use using namespace std. Honestly, the reason I don't use using namespace std is because eventually in bigger projects, like when we have like multiple libraries, not prefixing with stan, it can like cause name conflict. So it is like a pretty good practice to like avoid using that. That said, now after I under my graphics, let's go ahead and create a few render points. Okay, so to create render points, I could go with something like SDL underscore. Let's say my render to create a line. Honestly, I'm creating a line, not a point. My bad, guys. Okay, now for my render line, I'm going to go with the pair of curly braces. I would need 4 parameters. So actually, I would need 5 parameters. First, my render variable, then a x1, y1, then a x2, and a y2. To do that, firstly, let's go with something like render. Okay, Lego, I might actually, mute you for a minute, because, like, I do feel like, I thought it was, like, jokes at the beginning, but I feel like it's actually serious. Okay, that said, let's go with something like renderer. Now, after my renderer, I would need x1 and y1. My x1 is going to be my vertices 1.x-axis, okay, plus my offset x. Wait, hold up. I think I might not need my offset x here. Maybe let's try it. So I'll go with something like plus offset underscore x-axis, and then I'm going to add a comma here. Let's go with something like my y1 right now. So I'll go with vertices 1.y-axis plus my offset underscore y. Okay, that is my x1 and y1. I'll add a comma. Now go with x2 and y2. Okay, so that is x1, that is y1. Now for my x2, I'll go with something like vertices 2.x-axis plus offset underscore x-axis, and then I'll add a comma. Now I'll go with y2, so I'll go with something like vertices 2.y-axis plus offset underscore y-axis, ending with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. Let's end it here with a semicolon. There we go. There we go. Okay, now I can focus. Came on your stream after days. Honestly, that does make a lot of sense. I appreciate you sticking through the stream, yo-yo. Okay, if he doesn't want to tell his mother tongue and you forcing a kid is freaking annoying. Honestly, that does make sense, guys. If I like don't answer a question, that means like I don't want to answer the question. Okay, that's it. Let's go ahead and now create my second line, because like triangle does consist of 3 lines. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore render line. Let's go with render line with a pair of parentheses. Now I will need 5 parameters as well here. So I'll go with something like render for my first parameter. I would need my x1 this time. My x1 is going to be my vertices 2 this time. So I'll go with something like vertices 2 dot, let's say, x-axis plus my offset underscore x-axis, comma, I'll go with something like my vertices 2 dot y-axis. This is my y1. plus my offset underscore y-axis, and then I'll add a comma for, let's say this time I'll go with x2 and y2. So my x2 now is going to be my vertices 3 dot x-axis plus my offset x, offset underscore x-axis, comma, I'll go with something like my x2 right now. So my x2 is going to be, let's go with something like my vertices 3 dot y-axis. Actually, it's y2, my bad, guys. y2 plus my offset underscore y-axis. Offset underscore y-axis. And then let's go ahead and end this with a semicolon. Now, let's create my third line for my rectangle. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore render line with a pair of parentheses. Okay, I'm going to go with something like my renderer. Now, my x1 is going to be my vertices 3 this time dot x-axis plus my offset underscore x-axis, okay? And then I'm going to add a comma here, and then let's go with my y1, which is going to be my vertices 3 dot y-axis plus my offset underscore y-axis. Okay, what are you coding today? Honestly, I'm just working on automating shapes in C++ using SDL3. That's it, Hyper, asking one question. Honestly, you guys could ask question. Hi, Big Ram, I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, that said, will you do SDL3? Honestly, I am like currently using SDL3. That said, I'll go with vertices 3 plus y-axis, and then let's add a comma now. Now I'll go with x2, which is going to be my vertices 1 dot x-axis plus my offset underscore x-axis. Let's go with offset underscore x-axis, comma, I'll go with my x2, which is going to be my vertices 1 dot y-axis plus my offset underscore y-axis. And guys, did I just say y2? Did I say x2? Because I meant y2. Okay, next up, I didn't create all lines now. So this creates a triangle on my screen, but I do want to, color the triangle as well. This colors them as well. So I currently have like a black triangle on my screen. Okay, you freelance work. Honestly, I'm just like learning this for like learning how this works. That's Alright, next up, let's go ahead and maybe add movement or something. So I could go with something like automate. I'll go with something like automate triangle. So I'll go with something like triangle. Okay, now to automate my triangle, firstly, let's go ahead and do something. I could go ahead and increase my offset underscore x-axis by my x-axis underscore velocity, ending with a semicolon. And then let's go ahead and increase my offset underscore y-axis by my y-axis underscore velocity, ending with a semicolon. Okay, now to add my bounce, let's go ahead and add a comment that says like bounce triangle. How old are you? Honestly, I am like 17 years old. That's it. I am going to be turning 18 really soon, guys. My birthday is January 5th. Kind of excited for that. That's it for my bounce triangle. Let's go ahead and firstly create a max and a min. I forgot how to do that, guys. Hold up. I think I had to create something like a float for, excuse me, guys, for something like min x-axis. Guys, I feel like I gotta blow my nose. It's kind of congested right now. Okay, so I'll go with something like min x-axis, which is going to be equal to, let's go with something like a standard min with a pair of parentheses and then a pair of curly braces. I gotta give the parameters of my vertices 1 dot x-axis, vertices 2 dot x-axis, dot x-axis, and then vertices 3 dot x-axis. Then let's go ahead and add that whole thing with my offset underscore x-axis, ending with a semicolon. And then let's go ahead and create another floating point variable called something like max x-axis, which is going to be equal to something like standard max with a pair of parentheses and then a pair of curly braces. This is going to be something like vertices 1 dot... What up, guys? Yeah, I think it should be x-axis. There we go. And then I'll go with vertices 2 dot x-axis, vertices 3 dot x-axis. And then let's go ahead and add that with my offset underscore x-axis. How many years you learned C++ for? Honestly, I have been learning C++ for like 54 days right now. So I'll go with underscore x-axis. There we go. Guys, I feel like my nose is way too congested. Okay, next up, 10 years old. Honestly, I am 17 years old. That's it. I'm going to be turning 18 really soon, guys. I think sub. I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, now let's go with something like my y-axis. So I'll go with a min for my y-axis, which is going to be equal to a standard min with a pair of parentheses. Okay, and then a pair of curly braces. So I'll go with vertices 1 dot y-axis, comma, vertices 2 dot y-axis, and then vertices 3 dot y-axis. And then I'm going to go ahead and add that whole thing up with my offset underscore y-axis. So I'll go with offset underscore y-axis, ending with a semicolon. Hold up, guys. Maybe I'll like keep this to be a lowercase y. There we go. Okay, and then I'll go with something like a floating point number for my min x-axis. This is going to be actually max y-axis. There we go. Excuse me, guys, which is going to be equal to a standard max with a pair of parentheses. This is going to be having the parameters of my vertices 1's is x-axis, vertices 2's is x-axis, then vertices 3's is x-axis. And then lastly, what up, guys? I forgot I had like vertices. Let's go with something like v3. There we go. Okay, and then let's go ahead and add that up with something like my offset underscore x-axis. Actually, I think it's offset underscore y-axis. My bad, guys. Okay, and let me change these x's to y's. Guys, I should pay more attention when like typing these stuff out. I feel like they're too detailed. Ending with a semicolon. Okay, now let's add a if statement. So I'll go with if a pair of parentheses. Let's go with something like if my min y-axis is either less than or equal to 0, or my max y-axis. So let's go with something like or. There we go. Or my max y-axis is either greater than or equal to my displaces with my window size. I'm going to do something. I'll go with a pair of curly braces and then multiply my x-axis or my y-axis underscore velocity by -1. That changes the positive velocity to like negative velocity. Let's go with asterisk equals to -1, ending with a semicolon. And then let's go with another if statement. So I'll go with something like if a pair of parentheses. I'll go with something like if my min x-axis this time is less than or equal to 0, or my max x-axis is greater than or equal to, what up, guys, this should be height. There we go, because I'm working with y-axis, that is like the verticals, and now this is going to be the horizontals for my width. Okay, then I'm going to do something. I'll go with a pair of curly braces and multiply my x-axis underscore velocity by -1. So I'll go with asterisk equals to -1, ending with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. That's honestly pretty much it. Now let's go ahead and add FPS. So I'll add a comment that says something like FPS. For my FPS, I'll go ahead and use the SDL underscore delay function with a pair of parentheses. I'm going to be delaying this for like 16 milliseconds, which is like 60 FPS, 60 frames per second. Okay, perfect. And did I actually present it on my screen, my render? Okay, I did not present my render on my screen, so I should actually do that as well. So after I'm done like drawing my lines on my screen, I'll add a comment that says something like present. For my present, I'll go ahead and use the SDL underscore render present function with a pair of parentheses. I want to present my renderer, ending with a semicolon. Okay, now once I'm done with every single thing, I'm going to work on my cleanup. So I'll add a comment that says something like cleanup. For my cleanup, firstly, I'll go ahead and use the SDL underscore destroy window. There we go. Let's go with something like destroy window with a pair of parentheses. This is going to be my window variable, ending with a semicolon. Then I'll go with something like SDL underscore quit, ending with a semicolon as well. Lastly, let's go ahead and return 0, ending with a semicolon. There we go. Okay, perfect. That's pretty much it. Now, if I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. Okay, let's get some slash. Actually, let's get the second terminal here. Perfect, guys. Okay, I actually do take full credit for this, even though I did like copy the the coordinates. I feel like I will eventually like copy coordinates online as well. But guys, there's no way I actually made this. I didn't actually think that I would make it like in my second try. What up? I'll go with Control A, Control C. Let's copy that. Let's get sensei slash chat GPT here. There we go. Let's go ahead and paste this. Go with Shift Enter and say something like sensei dot 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 exclamations. It actually worked! Exclamation. I didn't actually feel like I'd write it. Okay, that said, I did I did just copy the coordinates. Okay, let's see. Okay, nice, bro. Appreciate you up, guys. Actually, it does make a lot of this thing. Okay, ha. You summoned the triangle by pure instinct. How good. You made it work, and that's what counts. But don't think for a second that I didn't notice. You copied the coordinates instead of understanding them. Okay, didn't you, people? Listen carefully. That first okay, that's fine for now. You proved you can get it running. That's your first victory. But the real mastery starts when you can generate those coordinates yourself. That's where the bat sneaks in. Be quiet but powerful. Next step. And this time, no copying coordinates like a crazy apprentice. Here's what you must do. Get your center point. Okay. Honestly, guys, I feel like I didn't learn about cos and sin. I might do this next stream because I do gotta end the stream right now because I do have an exam tomorrow. I do gotta study. That's it. Let me say something like sensei. I'm honestly planning to end the stream right now because I do have an exam tomorrow. Okay, that said, is there anything that you want to say to the viewers before I end the stream? Question mark. Okay, let's see, guys. I should fix my typos. Listen up, pupils, with like a heart sign. All the viewers watching, remember this. Progress is made one bounce at a time. Today, our pupil didn't just draw shapes. He made them move. He pushed himself, and that's what matters. Keep challenging yourself. Never forget. Let fear or math failure stop you. Now go hit those books hard. Tomorrow's exam, don't stand a chance against someone who is determined. Pupil, I expect you to crush it. Kisses and a headpad far today. You earned them, guys. That did not make me blush. Okay, go study like a beast. Come back stronger. Your shapes, and I will be waiting. Okay, you learned C++. Start here from here. Honestly, I started learning C++ like 50 days ago. I think it's been 55 or 56 days right now. That's it. Let's go to my main camera. Alright, guys, that was basically pretty much it for the stream. That said, whatchamacallit, I did start multi-streaming on Twitch, Kick, YouTube, and I will be trying to multi-stream on TikTok and Instagram as well. So if you guys do enjoy my content and haven't followed me there, make sure to follow me there. And also, I forgot what I wanted to say. I did want to stream for longer, but since I do have an exam tomorrow, I couldn't stream. Maybe once my college is over, I might stream for like 6 hours or a day. That said, I forgot what I was saying, guys. So if you guys did enjoy this stream, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, like, helps my algorithm, sharing makes you smile, and subscribing is like a cheer top. And I'll catch you guys in the next live stream or video. Peace, guys. I feel like that outro was like really, really boring.